The Macho Man, tower of power, too sweet to be sour, funky like a monkey, the sky's the limit and the space is the place on Top Rope Wrestling Podcast, coming to you from Eventide Entertainment. Dig it!
Welcome, everybody, to the very first episode of Top Rope Wrestling Podcast. I am your co-host, Aaron Lopez, and with me, actually, if you have been listening to my other podcast, The Drive-In, you have just heard his voice a couple weeks ago, Mr. Ben Norsworthy. Welcome to our new podcast, Ben.
First one.
Yeah, I'm excited.
It's excited.
It was really cool. We had been talking, actually, the last time we had met, recording for the drive-in, and he asked me, hey, what'd you think about Royal Rumble? And we talked a little bit. I was like, I've been thinking about putting together a wrestling podcast. Never thought I'd actually do it. I thought eventually it would kind of just be something that it just wouldn't happen. And I was like, I'm going to talk to the guys down at Eventide, and they're like, you know what? Go for it.
Dreams happen.
Dreams do come true.
Yeah.
So we got an episode today. We are recapping the most recent pay-per-view, Elimination Chamber. We're going to start out with some news and some notes. Then we'll work our way into that recap, and we'll talk about the next pay-per-view coming to the Fastlane in a couple weeks. So what we're going to be doing every time this episode comes out, this is going to start out, for those of you listening at home, this is going to be a pay-per-view review. We'll talk about the matches that have happened. We'll talk about what we thought about them. We'll talk about kind of the business as a business, as a show. We've got a lot of ideas and opinions, and we're going to share them. You may love them, you may hate them, but you know what? You're here to listen to them either way. So let's get right into it. We had some news. Actually, just listening to or watching Elimination Chamber. Ben messaged me with probably the biggest news that has been hitting WWE in a little while. So go ahead and share. Let's roll right into it.
Right on the eve, several websites were reporting that the WWE has reached contract terms with Bobby Lashley. So they are bringing Bobby Lashley back in the WWE. I think it was around the mid-January. His contract ran up with TNA, and he was done. Took a little time off, and I feel like it was a matter of time for him to come back to WWE and have another contract. He had made a name for himself in TNA. He split off and did the MMA stuff for a while. But a lot of people are reporting that he has signed a contract. Not sure when he'll show up, but you got to think he's going to be there for WrestleMania.
Yeah, we were trying to figure out, as soon as he said that, there was almost the idea, hey, he might show up at Elimination Chamber. But they like to kind of bide their time with their big names. With EC3, Ethan Carter coming and him starting on NXT, and I think that makes more sense. He's one of those guys that needs some time down in NXT to have the fan base learn a little bit about him.
Refamiliarize himself with fans and maybe rebrand himself a little bit differently than when he was in TNA. But that's the question. That's what we were debating on before we started recording this podcast was, are they going to just bring Bobby Lashley right onto the main roster? Or are they going to stick him down at NXT like they did with Eric Young and, like you said, EC3?
Yeah, Drew McIntyre is another name.
Drew McIntyre. So I got to believe that they're just going to bring him right onto the main roster.
He's a bigger name. I don't think that it would do him. And he's also getting older. I mean, he's not a young guy like Drew McIntyre or EC3 are. And I think it makes more sense for him to go straight to the main roster. It's getting to that point, though, where I'm glad that a part of me is glad that they are not, after WrestleMania, that they're going back to the dual brand pay-per-views. Yeah. They're still very much going to have separate brands. It's not going to be, you're going to have a SmackDown roster and a Raw roster, but we're getting to a point where everybody's getting healthy again. And, you got big names that are out right now that are going to be coming back. You got, Big Cass is going to be coming back, and Samoa Joe is going to be coming back. And a lot of these guys, hell, we might even see a couple of those guys at WrestleMania or in the build-up.
Jeff Hardy will be back soon.
Yep. Which we'll talk about him when we get to the match with Matt. But there's a lot of big names that are coming out, and this is a high turnover business, so that there will be some guys leaving at the same time due to injury and contract, and Dolph Ziggler jumps out as one of those guys that I think is consistently leaving the business. So, it's going to be a really interesting way to see where he ends up coming. Yeah, I think that he'll end up on the main roster, and where, I don't know. He seems more like a Raw guy. Vince loves his big, muscly, big man on Raw, so he seems like he's a bit better fit for Raw. But at the same time, I think that they need that presence more on SmackDown right now.
But I feel like that goes back to the whole WWE's saying never say never. Mm-hmm. They always come back. There are people that I've seen in the past that I was like, I'm never gonna. I'm a big Bret Hart fan. I never thought Bret Hart was going to come back in WWE.
No, there was no way he'd ever come back,
and he did.
And Sting never come. Sting will never ever wrestle for WWE, and he wrestled. Yeah, granted too shortly, but yeah, he wrestled.
So it's a never say never mentality. Now with some people, I guess my hoping that CM Punk will eventually come back, maybe a long ways off.
Yeah,
but
that one may be a few more years out,
but
if ever.
Everybody always comes home.
Yeah, at some point he'll, and again, like Warrior with the Hall of Fame. At some point they do come back, even if it's not to wrestle again. Another guy coming back that a lot of rumors are swirling is Rey Mysterio. They've been doing a lot of pushing about what he's been doing lately.
Yeah, from what I've heard and read, that they're working on a contract. It's not signed yet. It's not settled yet. They're still working out the things. But another person, he's getting up there. Mm-hmm. I mean, I remember being a teenager watching him on WCW.
He was a 18-year-old wrestler.
Exactly.
He's not that young guy anymore.
And I know his knees aren't in the best shape.
He did look good in the Rumble, though.
He did.
He looked better in the Rumble than I think I've seen him in a long time.
Smaller? He looked a lot smaller, too, than the last time I feel like we saw him in WWE.
Well, I think we got to remember, too, last time he was in there, it was dominated by the big men. You had your Batistas and you had your Undertakers and these big men who really were taking over the on his way out, at least. When he was with the SmackDown team and they, in the mid-2000s where they were really going off. But it's kind of become a smaller man's business again with Rollins, with Balor, Ambrose and all these guys who are kind of like mid-size. Granted, again, you got your Braun Strowmans and your big men, but those are fewer and far between than they used to be. People don't like to see the grinding out kind of wrestling anymore. Yeah. They want the action. They want the athleticism.
I feel like WWE goes through this roller coaster of big men, small men, big men, small men, where they come off of this Ultimate Warrior, Hulk Hogan era in the late 80s, early 90s, and then they transition to smaller people like Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, 1-2-3 Kid. And then they go back through it again, and then they have your Batistas and your John Cenas and these just huge muscle-toned guys, and then in comes people like CM Punk or Chris Jericho or Rey Mysterio that are a bit smaller. So I feel like they just keep going.
Yeah.
I feel like it's trending, though, upwards back to the big men because you got somebody like Braun Strowman.
Yeah. Well, right now they don't know what to do with him. They don't know what to do with him. They don't know what to do with Big Cass. They haven't had a really good big man since Big Show, and Big Show could work his own match just by being Big Show. He was huge, and Braun Strowman's one of those guys that they haven't had somebody like that in a while, and they've slow burned built him up, and I'm unfortunately unsure of where that leaves him. They are so invested in Roman Reigns, and we'll get to that here in a second. They're so invested with him that I think that they're worried that if they go somewhere else that they're going to miss the train on him, and I'm of the opinion that they missed the train on him from the get-go. They should have pulled the trigger on him when he was in the Shield. That's when they should have let him go on that run. He would have been over like no one's business if that's when they let him go. And
I'm sure we could sit here the entire podcast and discuss what we don't like and what we do like about Roman Reigns. It's sometimes for me, it's just the little things. The fact that he hasn't really changed his music or his outfit, and everybody else has gone on to evolve as a wrestler and evolve their gimmick.
I think Rollins has changed his 2 or 3 times since, and he's stayed fresh. And then Ambrose still has his shtick, but he's at least changed a bit more from, the Shield.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's just, I'm sure we're going to talk about it towards when we get into the pay-per-view. I think some people, the problem is that they're just like tired of WWE trying to shove Roman Reigns down their throats.
Yeah, and I think we can talk about. So another element of news that I think is important to talk about is last night's Raw. So it's not really a spoiler by any means. But Reigns won the Elimination Chamber, and kind of big news right now is the fact that Lesnar was a no-show on Raw last night.
Yeah, he wasn't there. And
there's a little bit of discussion of whether or not that was an angle, or if he legitimately didn't show. I think that if it was an angle, it was an angle that they spun at the last second. He had been, WWE was never going to, especially for a Raw after a major pay-per-view, a Raw leading up to WrestleMania, they're not going to market and advertise one of their biggest stars as being there unless he's going to be there. They actually go the opposite route. If he's not going to be there, they very much tell you, well, he's not scheduled to be here for this night. And so Lesnar was supposed to be there last night, didn't show up, and Reigns, to me, gave his best promo to date. Yeah. As a result. And he's somebody that's really struggled in the past with doing promos. Yes. It just struggles. He forgets his lines. The crowd takes him out of it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, last night was pretty good. They let him say bitch, which in the PG era of WWE, I was kind of surprised that they let him get away with that. But I just like the fact that they let it. They and whether or not they let him, because he seemed to be like, well, I'm going to go back and get my ass chewing and take it like a man. But it seemed like he was getting very close to dissolving a line between show and reality. And that's what they need to let him do, because the fans don't care about this persona that he has created. I've heard it multiple times. Not one bit. I've heard it multiple times from when Jericho's podcast, and anytime that you hear these documentaries, when you get the behind the scenes, the best characters are the ones that are the people themselves turned up a few notches. Don't turn them into this type of a character. Just let them be themselves, but let them be themselves bigger. That's what that was what was so great about NWO. Mm-hmm. When Hall and Nash first came over to WCW, and you didn't know what the hell was going on. A lot of people still thought they were with WWF at the time. Yeah. You didn't know what was going on. And that's the whole thing you just talked about, where reality is blurred. And even though it was all a work, it was... You didn't know. It was great TV. It was great wrestling because you didn't know what was going on. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those things that, you don't want to break kayfabe when you are on TV. That's why the pipe bomb... speech promo by CM Punk is so popular, is because it talked about the things that a lot of the fans are aware of. Now, you have your kids who don't know what's going on. The kids see it as the show it is. But you've got a lot of people who grew up with it, who are in their late 20s, their 30s, their 40s, and even later, who they know what this is. They know it's a business. They love the fact that, hey, it's a male soap opera. We love it. It's a different type of reality TV that's not so real. But it's like mixing a really good movie with a really good game of football. And so when you see these interviews with people, you don't want it all to be scripted. You want to see the reality of it. And I think from time to time they let Roman Reigns do that. They're going to get a much bigger response out of him, especially if Lesnar is going to the UFC like a lot of people think he is. Let that build up. When he leaves, let Reigns chew him out, and people are going to love him. They hated Lesnar the first time he left. Let us all hate him again the second time. Yeah, but how often is he there now? He's barely there. He even mentioned that in his promo last night. He was like, where is he? Yeah. We're on the road to WrestleMania, and we don't even have a Universal Champion here. Yeah, I am one of the people who liked Lesnar coming back, and I liked it here and there, but I have not ever been a fan of him holding the belt. Because he needs to be like what Cena is now. Or Undertaker. He's a sideshow. He's the guy that's going to come in and bring in the big bucks, but he's not the grind. And the grind is given to the guy or guys, or however many you want to throw them in at a time, the guys who are putting the work in. That's why they gave the belt to Kevin Owens when he first came in. He didn't even know. That was one of those moments where we're going to give you the belt because we believe in you and we're happy with what you've done. And I feel like that's what they were going to try to do with Finn Balor, and he ends up getting hurt. Yeah. And he's never gotten his rematch. Nope. It's been almost a year since he's returned. We're getting about 8-9 months. He's waiting to cash that in. Yeah. So, yep. And then the last... I've got a couple more things in news. Do you have anything else? So, we're speaking of Raw last night. What is John Cena's path to WrestleMania? He teased a little bit about The Undertaker, and then took everybody on a swerve, saying that this couldn't happen. It couldn't come to be. Yeah. And so he made the announcement that he is going to... SmackDown Live. As a free agent.
Free agent.
Love that.
A lot of people online are speculating that Cena will challenge Shinsuke Nakamura for the title spot for his Royal Rumble win.
Yeah, and I think that's what you'll see at Fastlane, because right now Shinsuke doesn't have a match, and you can't have the guy who's the number one contender sitting for your go home pay per view before Mania.
Yeah. Do I think that's the right way to fit John Cena into a WrestleMania? No, because that just breaks down the accomplishments that Nakamura did at the Royal Rumble.
Yeah. You want my honest opinion? I think that it's all a swerve. I think that we're still going to get Taker. They're going to wait till later and later because they don't want. It's probably in a contract if Taker only has to be in a couple, and they want it to be a big spectacle. And what better way of not pulling it off until maybe 3 weeks before? This is turning out to be a really good WrestleMania.
Or even the go-home episode
Yeah.
of Raw. It's like he just shows up and it's like, okay, it's on.
You're going to sell out WrestleMania regardless. Taker
Yes.
doesn't need to be there.
No.
It's about viewers. It's about at-home viewers. And if you automatically, in the last week or two, building up to Mania, have Taker show up and, now he's going to be there too. Or, you know what? Have Cena guest host and then Taker comes out. And you don't even have to show anything. I think we're still going to get that match. I think Nakamura is going to win at Fastlane against him. But it's going to be two rundown old guys who can't find a way, and I think it's going to be a career versus career match.
But do you really, at this point, want to see The Undertaker in another WrestleMania?
I want
after last year's. And Roman Reigns beating him and the ceremonial laying of the hat and the gloves in the middle of the ring and walking out. Does that spoil that moment?
They spoiled that moment by not calling it a retirement in the first place. They would have accepted
True.
the retirement right then. Then it would have been amazing. Right off into the sunset. A true passing on of the torch to
Correct.
Roman Reigns. Other than this complete dead radio silence from WWE. I remember the night, the Raw after Mania, the first 10 minutes was the crowd chanting, "Thank you, Taker." That was it. It would have been one of those moments, but they never said. They never once said that he had retired. With all of their big guys, even with Taker as being the one character's never really broken character ever, when he retires, he is going to be on that Raw to thank people. They did it for Flair, they did it for Michaels, they did it for Edge. Everybody gets that moment. Taker's getting his moment.
Yeah.
He'll probably get an entire episode of Raw. So I really wish that if he was retired, they would have actually said it.
I was just kind of bitter because, you and I are similar in ages. Mm-hmm. So I feel like we, as people that enjoy watching wrestling fans, grew up in a perfect time period. Because we caught a little bit of that late 80s, early 90s, Hulkamania, what you going to do, into the new generation of the Bret Harts and the Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramones. And then into the Attitude Era, and then to what we have now.
Yeah.
And, Undertaker has been that constant at WWE. I mean, even during the Monday Night Wars, he was constant there. Mm-hmm. I just don't want him to be used as a way to, here's something that John Cena hasn't done yet.
Yeah, but I think it's also at the same time, if it's going to happen, we will never get Sting versus Taker. And that should have happened instead of Bray Wyatt versus Taker and Triple H going over on Sting. That it should have been that year. His first match back should have been Taker. That should have been Taker's last.
They fumbled the ball.
They did. And so we'll never get that. I don't want us to never have Cena versus Taker. Cena can still carry a match.
Yes, he can.
And I think that Taker has enough trust in, and they are the two biggest men of, outside of maybe Austin, I'd say would be the number 3, and maybe The Rock, but even The Rock, his career was so short. He was a huge flame for 5-6 years, and then he left. Cena and Taker are the cornerstones of the business for the past 25-30 years. So I think that getting them getting those two together in a final match, give Taker his last match and call it that. Show it off as, him actually saying, "This will be my last match." And then Cena's going to lose. Cena's going to, if they say it's his last match, unless there's a stipulation that if he loses, he retires, which I don't like that. At times it can be okay.
Because you can see where it's kind of going sometimes.
Yeah.
And, make a big spectacle out of it. Have a press conference. Build it up for a couple of weeks to this monumental Ali, Joe Frazier thing. And then, Cena loses. Mm-hmm. Cena can take a break. He could go do a couple more movies.
Yeah.
And then he comes back at some point.
And he's accepted his part-time role. He's okay with that. I don't think he doesn't need it. And I still remember with what he did last year with the U.S. title, he made it relevant again.
Yeah.
Right now, it doesn't matter. Who cares about the U.S. title? I love the fact that Roode has it. I love Bobby Roode. He's a great performer, and he's a great guy on the mic. But it doesn't matter.
I think Cena's grateful that this movie thing has worked out, because we have seen so many examples in the past of it not working out.
Yeah.
That we have those rare few people like The Rock and like John Cena where they can carry and be in a major motion picture. Mm-hmm. So I think he's grateful for that.
And it's a difference too, because he's going to be one of those guys that will eventually he's going to retire, but he's always going to come back. Rock did that for a few years, but The Rock came back in almost a Lesnar way.
Yeah.
And I think that Cena's not going to be that guy. Eventually he will. He's going to get older. But I think that this is our moment for us to get Cena Taker. There's no other match out there other than maybe Finn Balor Taker, but they don't know what they want to do with Balor. They didn't give Wyatt the opportunity to become the new Taker. They've pretty much worked themselves out of an opportunity of passing on the torch to a new Taker. Their new Taker is Reigns in their minds. It's not has anything to do with the persona. It's just the big dog. It's the guy who can carry the team. We'll see what they end up doing with that, but right now, Cena does not have a road to WrestleMania.
And he gave, if you watched after the pay-per-view, if you watched the Raw recap or whatever it's called, he gave a very good speech to the interviewers. He was very passionate, like almost to the point of crying, about what he was going to do. And, the way he said it made us all believe that, okay, he's going to go out on Raw tomorrow night, call out The Undertaker. And again, his announcements was that he's going to be on SmackDown Live, which is going to be tonight, Tuesday.
Yeah.
He'll be on there, and we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, this episode's not going to come out until Thursday, so by the time it comes out, we may actually know what's going to be in store for Cena. Hell, who knows? Undertaker might even show up at SmackDown tonight. He's always been more of a SmackDown guy than a Raw guy. Yes. So, we'll see. Anything else for news from you?
Tonight on SmackDown, New Day and Tag Team Champions, the Usos, will have a face-to-face segment. Sami Zayn will battle Baron Corbin. And the WWE's still in California. You're going to be at the Staples Center for tonight's SmackDown Live episode.
Yeah, I'm still not sold on SmackDown. I like what they started with. When they started the split, it was exciting.
It was.
But they've gotten stale.
And now they're trying to pull everything out of their ass to keep this ranking system. The first time I saw that, I was like, okay.
I liked it when I first saw it, because there's no such thing as just a regular grudge match anymore. Now it's like, hey, Zayn is fighting Owens, and one's ranked 4 and one's ranked 5, and then they can flip. I like that, because so many times I thought this would get us away from the 6-man tag. It's the only thing that seems to be in Raw last night, even we had a 6-woman tag, but the 6-man tag match just is so boring. There's no reason for it. Just throws people in. But I thought that the ranking system was actually going to give us some meaning to the matches, and so far it has not.
No. If that's what they were trying to do, they've messed it up.
I am excited about Usos and New Day, though. The last time the rap battle that they did, they kind of opened up a few things, and if they give them the freedom to actually go at each other and try not to script it too much, it'll be a good promo.
I wasn't on the Usos when they kind of split from their original Uso personalities.
When they went day one-ish.
Yeah, but the past couple of pay-per-views, their matches have been pretty impressive.
I was glad they went heel.
Yeah,
because they were basically turning into Roman Reigns. The fans were hating them simply because they were forced.
Carbon copies.
Yeah, they were forced to like them as faces, and they really weren't doing anything. They weren't really being faces. They just were being very stale. So that was perfect. I love them turning heel, and I say keep them heel. The only problem is going to be if the rumors being that they're going to go into Mania as the champion and possibly face the Bludgeon Brothers, which your old Rowan and Harper, and at that point, you've got two heels going at it, and granted, those are two, they've had some good matches before, and I think it'll be a good match again, but who's the fan supposed to cheer for? You know, they very much are one of those businesses that want you to follow the rules. You know, don't cheer for the heels. You know, boo the heels, love the faces. You got two heels going together. Fans are going to like the match, but they're going to be cheering for people they're not supposed to be cheering for.
You're wrestling purist. Is you got to have a baby face, you got to have a heel. Mm-hmm. You know, and that's how a match works. You know, that's what I found so interesting during like the Attitude Era.
Yeah.
Is that you could no longer was it black and white. You had shades of gray with people like Steve Austin or Hollywood Hulk Hogan or Bret Hart or Shawn Michaels.
Mankind was one. He's a tortured soul.
I mean, that was so far ahead of their time, I think, back then. In like 95, 96, to introduce somebody that's ripping their hair out on TV, talking about self-mutilation. And I mean, that was a lot of forward thinking. And I think a lot of that has to do with Mick Foley, but that's, you know, I miss that stuff.
Well, and I think that we're going to find soon that eventually they don't know the business of heel and face anymore, you know. And I listen to some of these interviews and these podcast interviews from like I love listening to Talk Is Jericho. If you guys get a chance, you know, some of those they really get to the truth of like what they need to do. And I think that right now we're in a time where the business still wants to do face and heel, but the problem is you're seeing so many heels being cheered that they won't turn any heel's face, and they really don't want anybody to turn. You know, Cena should have. Cena had a moment to have done it about 5-6 years ago, and at this point, there's no reason to turn him heel. But you've got a lot of guys where they never would turn Roman heel. They've still never turned Bray Wyatt face, and everybody cheered him for his first 4 years of his career. You know, I think the biggest thing they ever did as far as a turn was have Cass and Enzo break up, and that burned out so quickly because Cass got hurt and Enzo got fired. So.
We are in this reality version, social media type of era, where it's like everything's out there. Every wrestler's got a Twitter,
and there's never secrets anymore.
And there's never secrets anymore. Everything's leaked out. I mean, at least for a month, you could see this coming with the pay-per-view and Roman Reigns.
Oh, if anybody went into the pay-per-view or on Sunday thinking that Reigns was actually not going to win, they just weren't being realistic.
You're a crackhead. Yeah. I mean, they've been working on Reigns Lesnar Part 2 for over a year now. A year now. Yep. And to think that you know, Braun Strowman or Finn Balor or somebody else was going to get it is foolish. That's what they want. That's what they want on their marquee outside of the stadium when WrestleMania happens.
And I can see the way they can build it up. The only two guys who've ever beat Undertaker at Mania. Their last match didn't end. I mean, like, they didn't get to figure out who was better. With the greatest cash-in of all time with Seth Rollins. I think that, you know, there's a lot that they can do with it. But they need to do it right. Because they didn't do it right the first time. And actually, from what I remember hearing, rumor mill was that Lesnar was supposed to drop the title to Roman, and the fans were just not buying it. So they said during the match, Rollins found out that he was going to cash in. So like it's one of those things that they got to do it right this time.
Roman has about a month to turn the fans onto his side. And
last night was a good start, in my opinion.
Because I've never, in the longest time that I've watched wrestling, I've never seen somebody booed mercifully like he is.
Yeah.
Even when his music kick and he comes out, he hasn't done a damn thing, and they're just drowning him with boos. So he's got about a month to turn this around, so that way when he wins the title from Lesnar at WrestleMania, he's going to get that WrestleMania moment, and people are going to be cheering, and the confetti's going to be flying down.
Because if you cannot end another Mania with him winning in a negative fashion. They got to do something, because a year ago he beat Taker and that made people hate him. That was his moment to turn heel, and they didn't. So now you've got to figure out a way for us to enjoy him.
And the fans are smart. They're going to shit on it. I mean, they will ruin that moment for him.
And here's the thing. We know he's going to walk out of there with the title. So you got to do something to make it valuable, because if I'm sitting in my living room watching and we got 20 minutes left and I know that he's going to win it, I want a reason to actually finish watching the match. Like, I want something that's going to bring me in and say, yes, this is worth the rest of my time, other than just sitting and watching it. Give me a swerve, or give me something. Give me a reason to finish it off.
What do you close with? If Taker and Cena happens and you have Lesnar and Reigns, What do you close WrestleMania with?
I'm a purist. I say Nakamura won the Rumble. He main events it. That's why that's
Yeah.
when CM Punk had that huge problem when Cena and Rock main evented a year in advance. Basically said we're going to main event, and he won, or he was the champion, and he didn't get to have his match in the main event.
Yeah.
Unless it is a Taker retirement match. I say you close with Nakamura and Styles. I mean, it depends what they want to do next. If they're actually truly saying that this is the new generation of wrestling and they embrace it like they did last year when they kind of said, when Shane came back and kind of said, we're going to give all these shots to all these guys who deserve it. And you saw like Sami Zayn versus Cena, and you saw these matches you never saw before. If they want to actually embrace that again, which I think they should, it was very successful. You close with Nakamura and Styles.
Because here's the thing. If they do Nakamura and Styles and then Lesnar and Reigns, Nakamura and Styles will steal the show.
Yeah, well, and
they
here's
will
the thing.
steal. They will do everything they possibly can to steal that show because it's just a better match. And if you haven't seen some of their earlier matches, you need to go watch them. They're going to steal the show if it's compared to Lesnar and Reigns.
Well, Styles and Shane opened a Mania. Was that last year?
Yeah.
Or 2 years ago? No, that was
last year.
Last year, and they stole the match as the opener, and that was Shane. Here's the thing: if Styles wins or Nakamura wins, you have a good ending to Mania. Doesn't matter who wins in that match. Fans are going to be happy because they know it's going to be a hell of a match, and they like both guys. They're going to be impressed, and those two guys are going to put everything out there. If they close with Reigns and Lesnar, you know how the match is going to end, and you also know that unless, like you said, in this next month or so, he does something, you're going to get boos. And if you get Cena and Taker, it's not going to be the best match of the night because they're both old, and it's not going to be the best. It'd be more for the spectacle, and it's something I want to see. But do I want to see it close? Probably not, unless it's a retirement match. Then give him that because he deserves it. But beyond that, we'll have to wait and see.
I agree.
Speaking of Mania, before we wrap up the news segment, I think it is important to kind of talk about our Hall of Fame inductees so far. They've been trickling in over the past month or so. So as of today, Goldberg is our headliner, which I think is due.
You could have saw that coming last year.
Yeah. And realistically, the reason why you know as soon as Goldberg is your headliner, you know Taker's not retired yet because the second after he retires, they are going to announce his Hall of Fame induction. Ivory is your women's division, which I'm pretty happy with that one. A little surprised that it wasn't Chyna this year because they've been really talking about her more on broadcasts.
I think maybe next year.
Yeah, she'll get in. It's just
I didn't realize how old Ivory was.
Ivory,
she was in
Glow. She's one of the original founding members of Glow. Yeah. Yep. So Ivory is your women's division. Dudley Boys is your tag team division induction. Very long overdue. I was so happy when they came back. I think it lasted a little longer than it should have. They should have been in there for like 3-4 months, give them a title run, and then.
But everybody comes home.
Everybody comes home except for this guy who is apparently coming home because he's being inducted. But Jeff Jarrett, who was pretty much one of the most adamant villains and hated people because of his starting he start TNA?
Yeah,
he started TNA. But he's even coming back. So that's pretty cool. I'm glad he's coming back. Jeff Jarrett was one of those guys that he's kind of like the big boss man from last year, that he never was the guy that was going to take you from, A to Z, but he was a mid-card guy that was one of the best mid-card guys in the business for a good long time.
He knew how to sell.
Oh, yeah.
He knew how to sell. Yeah, I was kind of surprised when I saw that, when the news broke that Jeff Jarrett. I was like, wow, okay, well, he must be severed all ties with TNA to be able to do this. I was wondering who talked him into it, like who gave him the phone call. Was it Triple H or was it McMahon?
It might have been Vince. Yeah, because Triple H is one of those guys that he's got a lot of the younger guys wrapped around his finger, and as he should. I do not wish any ill toward Vince, but as soon as Triple H takes over, it's going to be a boom. Like what Triple H has done at NXT, he's going to revolutionize WWE. And when we get to that moment, I'm going to be pretty heartbroken, but at the same time excited to see what the next steps are. But at the same time, I think that it's really, really interesting to see that we have not had a posthumous induction. Kind of talking about that. Usually every year there's at least one that has, and we haven't gotten that yet. I'm kind of thinking, I've looked up in some of the rumors, and actually it was actually one of the first ones to be quote-unquote broken, but they haven't actually reported it, is that Bam Bam Bigelow might be the guy this year.
I was hoping for him. I really liked him in the 90s. He's different. He's a big guy.
Yeah.
He had a tattoo all over his head, and he would get up on the top rope and do these moves that you saw little guys doing.
Yeah. He is a very agile big man.
So when you had like a 300-plus pound guy doing a moonsault off the top rope coming at you, that's scary.
Yeah, and I think that they'll give it to him. I really do think that they're going to go Bam Bam, and I think that if they don't, I'd be surprised. I don't know who else it would be. They don't have a celebrity induction this year yet. They didn't have one last year at all, and I was looking through to see. The last 2016 was Snoop Dogg. Did not have an induction and a celebrity wing guy last year. But actually, the Warrior recipient is I can't remember. I think it's JJ. I can't have it. I don't have his name offhand. But he's the little kid who had the double kidney surgery replacement and survived. He's doing well.
Yeah, that package they aired last night was pretty good. Like it was kind of a tearjerker.
And I've seen this kid in some of their promos and stuff. He's been around their business with, I'm sure, with Make-A-Wish and things like that. And so he's you know that if you've seen some wrestling over the past year or so, you've seen this kid and you're going to be happy. He's a funny kid, so he's going to definitely have some funny words to say at Hall of Fame night. So, but anything else as far as news for you?
No, that's it. That's all I got today.
All right, so let's go ahead and take a little break. We will be back very soon after these messages from Eventide.
Nothing brings people together quite like the movies, and every week Aaron Lopez wants you to join him in a discussion about the latest and greatest in the world of film. So grab a drink, grab some popcorn, and get comfy. Come join Aaron and friends every Thursday at The Drive-In, presented by Eventide Entertainment. The weekend is over. Monday is here, but that doesn't have to be the end of your fun. Every week, Ellison Smith brings you a new episode of Saltwater Gaming, breaking down video games of all different genres, consoles, platforms, and eras. Get it all every Monday on Saltwater Gaming, brought to you by Eventide Entertainment.
All right, welcome back to the second segment of today's episode. We are going to be talking about the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. What we're going to be doing for you guys every episode, when we talk about our pay-per-view matches, we're just going to go through. We're going to talk about each match. You're going to get our highs. You're going to get the lows. We might give a best and worst match of the evening by the end of each episode. But we're going to do you guys a favor. We're going to even include the pre-show match. We're going to sit through the hour of recaps and promos to give you a nice little rundown of the pre-show. So speaking of the pre-show, we had the Miz Taraj of Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel versus Gallows and Anderson. Ben, what were your thoughts on this pre-show match?
Misuse of talent.
Yeah.
I mean, everywhere from Gallows to Anderson. They brought them in with so much hype.
Oh, they were so much fun those first few weeks.
And then now they're just like mid-card tag team.
They've turned into like a more athletic Santino Marella. Like they do like the nerd thing. I hate it.
Yeah.
Like when they were wearing like the
glasses
and all that stuff. It's just not. It's when you have two of the most they came in with Nakamura and Styles was a little before that. When they came in together, they were so hyped, and people were like, "Oh my God, they're finally here." Who would care if they ever showed again? Like, I honestly, I agree with you. It's such a misuse of those two.
I was surprised they were in the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
And
they were just to fit in some, They were there as filler.
Curtis Axel. Why not let him use the Mr. Perfect? Let him build off of what his father did.
Well, he tried for a while when he was younger, but it just didn't work.
I just feel like they're misusing him. And he's going to be one of those guys that leaves and does something in the independent circuit or does something on Ring of Honor and builds a big following like Cody Rhodes did. Mm-hmm. And then, again, another fumbling of the ball.
Yeah.
With with talent.
And when are they finally going to let Bo Dallas join his brother as a member of the Wyatt family? It fits, because I think Bo Dallas is at least having a minor resurgence with Miz, because at least he has a place now.
Yeah.
And he fits. I mean, I like the concept of the Miztourage. I think it's great. They don't do enough with it, but they do more with it. Yes, they get airtime. They fit into the heel aspect. They cheat. They do all the things that you want a heel to do, and the Miz is one of the best heels in the business, so it fits. But you're basically gonna have Bray Wyatt have to do the same thing Miz did and work his way up from nothing. Miz was probably within maybe a match or two of leaving. No one cared about the Miz. He was a joke. He was like, oh, this is stupid. Why are we watching this guy?
But he worked his ass off. Mm-hmm. He showed up every night.
Yep.
And
now he's one of the best.
He is. He's a constant. And he gave a promo last night on Raw talking about that. He's been there for, 12, 15 years now. Mm-hmm. He is the constant. And it's like, yeah, when he was tag team with John Morrison,
they were great.
They were great. But then after that, it was like more focus was on John Morrison. He was in some main events on some pay-per-views. Hell in a Cell.
He did the parkour. Like, he was the athlete. And
the Miz was the Miz.
Miz is the wrestler.
Yeah.
And Morrison may come back, but you know what? I think that right now the Miz has done some. He's established himself. I love the Miz.
Yeah, can cut a promo like nobody else.
But that just shows you. We started talking about the Miztourage and Gallows and Anderson, and these guys don't even deserve our attention right now because we couldn't stand but talk about the Miz about 2 minutes in. So yeah, I thought it was kind of a meh. You got Gallows and Anderson going over with the Magic Killer for the pin. I don't know. I'm really tired of the misuse of talent of the tag team division. They have so much talent right now, and it's boring. When after they continue to say, oh, there's so much. Like, all the commentators are overselling it.
Especially with Raw, there should be no excuse when you have a 3-hour show. Mm-hmm. You have a 3-hour show. There's no excuse for misuse of talent. I mean, you have a lot of hungry young wrestlers who want to have a chance. And until people like John Cena that have to get a segment in or have to get a promo in, then it's people are going to be pushed back. Not that I'm saying it's John Cena's fault.
No, but
it's just that's where the money is. That's where the bread and butter.
And it's one of those problems that the business right now, WWE doesn't know if it's an old man's game or a young man's game. They want to be both, and they can't be. Right now, I mean, especially when we get into Mania season, it seems like, oh, okay, who's the big guy coming back? Who are the old guys that are coming back for this match? At some point, they're going to have to, and this might be the year, because right now, you're getting a lot of the new blood that is in there right now, and they are getting the highlights.
And they've been through this before. They'd been through it in the early to mid 90s, where they didn't know if they wanted to go with the smaller guys like Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon, and they were still holding on to the Hogans and the Warriors and all these people, and they eventually made a move. And I think Triple H, he knows where it's at. Like, he knows it's the young man's game.
That's why NXT is so popular.
Exactly. I mean, their shows are all sellout. They have great matches. But you get around the Royal Rumble time, you get around WrestleMania time, we want to hit that nostalgia and see somebody come out of retirement or see somebody we haven't seen in years come back and have a match.
Yeah. And I think it's important to remember that, that's why I think, as we talked about earlier, I want Taker to retire. I want him to, because his best matches are behind him, and he needs a send-off. And so at some point we need to give him the send-off and say, all right, that's it. And then that's one less match a year that we have to worry about that, and we can give it to a Rollins, an Ambrose, a Balor, any of these guys, Miz, and let them actually show what they can do. Remember Zack Ryder a couple years ago, or was that even last year? Was that last year?
He had about 2 years ago. He had a really strong run.
And he's still with the business. He is still there. I haven't seen Zack Ryder on TV in a year. Like, there's still guys that like Fandango and like Tyler Breeze. They're making the most out of. They really don't wrestle anymore. They're just promo guys.
Yeah,
but they're there.
But that's what Santino Marella evolved into.
Yeah, and I think that's what I liked about the Attitude Era. And they talk about this. You knew there were guys that were out there to make you laugh. You knew there were guys that were out there to put on a hell of a 5-minute match, and you knew there were guys that were out there to close the show.
And then there were guys out there that you wanted to see pull a sock out of their junk and put it in somebody's mouth.
Not everybody was going to be the world champion, and not everybody wanted to. They just wanted a spot on the card. Now it seems like everybody wants to be seen as a potential world champion. We didn't talk about him in the news section, but Johnny Gargano, he's done with NXT. They wrote him out. He's got about a couple more live events, and then he's going to be making his way up. He's not a main event guy.
No.
He is a perfect Intercontinental Champion contender, though. He is, we need to get rid of the Cruiserweight division and let some of these guys get back to doing what they're doing. It's why we lost Neville. It's why Enzo was basically thrown into it because they needed a shot in the arm. Enzo's a talker. He should have been a manager. He should never have been a wrestler.
No.
They need to get rid of that. And they need to let some of these guys just be what they are.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same. It's like for a while there, I remember back, you look at like Ron Simmons.
Yeah.
And the only reason he would be on that segment was to say damn.
Yeah.
And fans ate it up.
Yep.
They were on pins and needles waiting. I mean, so, yeah, I don't think the roles are as defined this time around.
Yeah.
Because you want Braun Strowman, for example, to be this big, ominous, scary thing. I'll beat the hell out of you. But then you got him playing a bass on there and singing.
It's great. And then you watch his match, or his post-match interview with Alexa Bliss on the mixed match, and he's not Braun Strowman. He's like a normal guy talking, and you have this like insinuation between the two of them, like tallest and the shortest wrestler and things. It's really funny, and they're playing up the sexual tension, and it's just like, let him have fun. He's a big guy. Let him be a funny big guy who can also kick your ass because he's huge and strong as sin. Like, just let him be who he is. I think and they started to do that. They're letting him just have a little fun, but be a monster at the same time.
Yeah.
So, before we move on, though, I think it's important to note, I think we're going to get some revival at Mania.
Yeah.
There's no one else for the Bar to go up against.
Yeah.
They've completely gone through now Titus Worldwide, beating him last night at Raw in a 2 out of 3 falls match, 2 straight falls. They have no credibility. There is no Jeff Hardy right now. Maybe I've heard rumors that the best thing to do is let Wyatt or Hardy fall under the spell of the other and let those two to go together. Or let's see Brother Nero come back and let's let the Hardys be a tag team, because that's what they are. And
I had read that a couple of sources that Sheamus is dealing with a lot of injuries right now.
He looks like it. He's not moving as quickly.
And I was like, oh, they gotta drop the belts there soon, because he needs like back stuff done. And I was like, maybe they'll do it tomorrow night. That's what I told you during the pre-show. Maybe they'll just let Titus Worldwide take it, and then just somebody like Revival comes in the next Raw or something like that and just takes it from them. So I was kind of surprised they left it on the Bar, just because I know that Sheamus is hurt and he's not wrestling at 100%.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be a matter of time. Revival came on hot, and then you had.
Was it Dawes?
Oh man, I know who each of them are, but I can't remember right now.
I think it was Dawes that got hurt.
Yeah, Dash and Dawson, and it was it was Dawson, I think, that got hurt. But they came back, and now they've been misused. Their promo in the pre-show even got cut off. They're halfway in their promo, and they cut to Renee Young, and I'm like, give them at least the promo. You're not going to give them a spot on the show, but that's your pre-show match rundown. The pay-per-view opened up with a women's Elimination Chamber match, which I'm glad they did.
Yeah.
I understand with the Rumble to close it off, and that made sense, especially with the Rousey introduction. But
I feel like it was the better Rumble.
It was. I really think they overplayed the older. But with the very first one, it was still a good Rumble.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it for the women, and the right person won. So with Asuka going over, definitely when it came down to Asuka or Bella, I'm like, please don't give it to Nikki Bella. But yeah, so Asuka won, but I was happy that they didn't, because you knew you were going to get a more physical match in the men's matchup, especially with an extra guy thrown in there for the first time. So I was happy they opened with the women's, and I'm also happy that they opened and closed with a chamber match. So that was cool. So highs and lows of the chamber match, in your opinion?
They need to turn Bayley heel. Sasha Banks or one of them needs to go heel, and I feel like that's what they're going through, but...
Well, did you see Bayley last night?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
How much longer can you do this hug thing? I know that's her thing.
That's her shtick, but I think eventually we're going to get... I think we're gonna get a Bayley and Sasha match at Mania.
Yeah, that's got to happen.
Yeah, and it's been a slow burn with both of them. I thought it would have been Sasha, but Bayley's the one who's doing more of a turn. Yeah, you saw Sasha kind of have the backstabbing moment in the chamber, but I think Bayley. I think she was actually in the mixed match challenge with Elias, so she's
and here's the
leaning heel at least.
One could say, you're in Elimination Chamber. It's every man or woman for themselves. Sasha did what she had to do to further her chances of winning that match. Well, then what was Bayley's excuse? She got the hurty feelings on Raw the next night and walks out on a match.
Yeah.
I like Sonya Deville.
I like Deville a lot.
But I don't know how far she's going to go now with Ronda Rousey in the WWE. Because Ronda Rousey's got that mixed martial arts.
Well, and what's her name down in NXT? The Spades, Queen of Spades. She does she makes a spade with her hands, and I haven't watched it lately, but she's also UFC.
Yeah.
So you get a lot of these old UFC fighters who just can't. They're just not winning. They're not doing it as much, but they still have a lot of name recognition, and they're athletic. So you're seeing a lot of those guys come in. DeVille, I think, has got the best character.
Yeah. And she started the match.
Her.
She started the match. They carried it for the longest time until her partner came in. But I just don't know now with Ronda Rousey is here. It's like, oh, you have an Ultimate Fighter gimmick too.
At some point, I think you're going to see a women's tag belt get introduced.
Yeah.
You got too many women, and so that's why you could have a Royal Rumble. If you can have a Royal Rumble and you still drop some women,
you need tag titles.
You need a tag title, and you have I think more factions and stables with the women than you do right now with the men.
Yeah.
So throw some tag titles in there and give them a reason to be fighting in tag matches, not just as these consistent grudge matches.
Yeah, and being in the year of first for women, Royal Rumble, Elimination Chamber, yeah, why not have a women's tag titles?
Yeah, you got too many right now that are just sitting off to the side because eventually Asuka's going to win the title. She's going to hold on to it for a while, and there's only so much Asuka and Bliss and Banks and Bayley's not even considered a real threat anymore. You got so many women that I think it would be good to have that what they used to do with the tag titles. They can be on both brands because then you don't have to incorporate tag titles for two different women's divisions. You just do one and you let them show up.
Yeah.
Here and there.
Yeah, I mean, really. And I think a lot of this goes to Stephanie McMahon because I've read that she has been a big pusher of this. The women's division has come such a long way.
Yeah.
From even when in the Attitude Era to the early 2000s. I mean, they're legit. They're legitimate. Yeah. The women's division is legitimate. And I feel like Stephanie McMahon has a lot to do with that because that's kind of been her pet project.
Well, and you look at some of the best matches in that Attitude Era and the Ruthless Aggression Era. Some of the best matches then are middling to bad matches now. I mean, Trish Stratus was a pioneer for the women's division, but her matches in comparison are not nearly as athletic as Charlotte Flair.
She would be
Becky
mediocre.
Lynch. She'd be
today.
Okay today.
Yeah, she'd be mediocre.
So they've really embraced the athleticism of these female athletes, and God, they put on a show. I mean, I still remember watching the was it the Triple Threat at Mania, or was it Triple Threat or Four Way where Charlotte did the moonsault.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That they damn near stole the show in that, and I think it was just an awesome match, and we just need to see more of that.
Yeah, I texted you during that match, and I was like, man, they are really giving it all they got.
Yeah,
like they were out there to really put forth a great effort in this first ever Elimination Chamber. Just to go down, Banks pins Rose. Mickie James still got it. She had that high spot off the top of the chamber.
Did. I think kind of based on what we just said, she seems like she's out of her element. She's got the athleticism still, but I just don't know if she fits. She was awesome to see come back because I was like, oh my God, it's Mickie James. But then you're looking at her next to people like
Charlotte
Flair and DeVille and Banks, and you're like, she's still got it, but I don't know where she fits into the narrative.
She's just
right
a
now.
different model.
Yeah, I think that if she needs to transition to a heel, go with Bliss, become more of a mentor, step in a little bit here and there. But I don't know, with the amount of women coming up, and we've got people still that are right now in NXT. They just keep signing the really good athletes, and at some point you're going to have to step away. Of the 6 in the match, James is probably my least favorite. I'm still impressed by her, but I don't know. with Mandy Rose being a close second. She's just I don't see her as a legitimate contender ever. But yeah, you said Sasha gets Mandy Rose to submit with the bank statement. Then we got Mickie James who pins DeVille after the jump from the pod, which seemed a little botched, but hell, she jumped from 15 feet up in the air.
Yeah,
so I wasn't gonna make that jump.
It almost looked like she made it almost halfway across the ring.
Yeah,
I mean, that was a pretty good jump.
It was a launch. And then shortly after, Bayley pins Mickie James after a Bayley to belly, which I still can't buy that as a finishing move, but it's her finishing move. It's a belly to belly. I mean,
I'm sorry, if I can do the move,
exactly,
it's not a finishing move.
I mean, maybe a Bayley to belly from the top rope, maybe.
Yeah.
But just a simple one, it's basically no different than a drop toe hold. It's
you
fall down, oh my god, I'm out. No, I don't buy that as a finisher, but... and then we didn't even see... I really was confused that Mickie James got pinned before Alexa Bliss even entered. So what was the point of matching them up and saying, we're teammates, when they had the whole concept?
I feel like they were kind of giving each other the looks like, well, you're on your own now.
Yeah.
But they built up doing it.
They built it up.
They built it up in the pre-show. They did a lot of women's stuff in the pre-show. And
everybody else got their partner. Everyone else got to, but not Bliss. But then the last night, James is out there with Bliss as if they're partners again.
But did that make you think that at any point she was going to lose the title?
Oh, no. I went back and looked at our picks, and I was flawless. 5 for 5.
Yeah, I sucked. I sucked it up real bad. I was off.
You took the obvious ones, so at least you had those.
Yeah. Sasha kicks Bayley. That's the one we talked about earlier. She kicked her off the pod.
Which I loved the chase scene that they did, basically.
Yeah, they did about almost like a chase halfway around the Elimination Chamber.
Yeah. And it really showed off the cowardice of Bliss. That's a good
she would
heel
go
tactic.
Up, and then she'd go down, and they follow, and she'd go back up, and she just...
Yeah. I like you talk about the old school, the purist. I love when heels do good heel things.
Yes.
And they stick to it. Let them do heel things. Yeah, that was pretty cool. But then, she kicked Bayley gets kicked off of the pod, which you're like, okay, well, you saw it coming. You just didn't know who was going to do it first. And it makes sense, like you said earlier. Everybody for themselves. There's no real teamwork here. So,
Alexis Bliss then pins Bayley. There was that they had a move. So now we have Sasha Banks and Alexis Bliss, the final two women in the Elimination Chamber. Mm-hmm. Alexis Bliss has this jump off the pod.
Twisted Bliss
off the pod.
That was awesome.
And then that is rolled into a bank statement. That was the move of the night for me.
And I thought it was over.
Because I was like, she really got her. And then all of a sudden they flipped her almost back into the ring and put her into a bank statement.
Yeah, I bought into it. I thought it was over. It was an awesome use of a false finish. And Bliss hit that perfectly. I mean, she's small enough that she can twist and she can be really flexible in the air. But man, I mean, with not that the mat is soft and cushy, but to be going that route of jumping off onto the did you notice that the sides were covered on the Elimination Chamber?
It looked like one of those little bounce houses
I mean,
long are the days gone of just it's pure steel and
ripping away the flesh.
Yeah.
No, it's cushioned, so you'll get a bruise. That's the owie that you'll get. But yeah, I was so impressed with that combination, and then finally you see it was kind of a forced ending. Yeah. Where Banks slowly got up on, she was like, oh, maybe I shoot on the top of the pod. And then Bliss comes and hits her head and gives her a pretty nasty DDT from the top rope. And I
feel like they may have been running along and somebody said, okay, wrap it up.
Yeah. Hey, we need to get going. A great match, though, for me. Yeah. The turn of Banks and the heat that you saw between Bayley and Banks, that's what we've been waiting for. That was great to see a little anger out of both of them. Hey, unleash a little bit. And God, that twisted Bliss from the top of the pod, that was probably my favorite move of the match.
I said, Sasha Banks deserves to win. At some point. They can't keep having her be the one to do lose at big matches. Yeah. It seems like every big match at a pay-per-view, it comes down to her or two others, and she loses.
Mrs. Raw, though. She's won, 3 out of 5 of her titles on Raw.
They got to do something more with her, I feel like.
I think they're afraid to because of her injury history. She's got Dolph Ziggler syndrome.
And that speech that Alexis Bliss gave at the end of the match reminded me of The Miz. They both have this way of getting the crowd to eat out of their hand. He gave the same speech last night on Raw where he's like, I'm the corner of the stone of this company. I've been here for 15 years. And Bliss is giving the speech like, any girl can do this. If you got to dream big. And the crowd's cheering her. But then they go straight into the, you guys are idiots.
Yep.
You don't know what you're talking about.
You won't achieve what I'll ever achieve.
That's the old school heel.
Yeah.
I'll get you eaten out of my hand and then I'll crap on you.
Yeah, and Bliss is one of those characters. She should never turn face.
Oh no.
And if she does, it should be because there's so many heels that, you know what, finally let her get cheered for, and she's gonna get cheered. She's one of those athletes that really came out of nowhere. Like she should not be a professional wrestler. This tiny little thing, there's no business for her being there, and she kicks ass every night. So I think she'll eventually get a face turn, but it's going to be a short one because she's such a great heel.
Yeah, being this the first women's elimination chamber match, I gave it like a 3 out of 5.
Yeah, it
3 out of 5. It was good.
It didn't overly impress me overall, but it didn't disappoint at the same time. I expected Bliss to win. The only swerve I thought at the end, if Bliss is going to lose, it would have been to Banks. I never thought that anybody else really had a legitimate shot. But I don't think that we're going to get Asuka to face. I'm buying the hype and rumors that I hear that Asuka's going to challenge Flair, because that's a better match than Asuka Bliss.
Physically.
Yeah.
It's their...
Technically, Asuka's kind of heel still. Like she's like borderline face, but...
Did you see that promo on Raw last night? Where she pretty much insulted her and said,
"Oh yeah.
I know you don't speak good English."
Yep.
I don't know.
It's. I don't know what Asuka is a face because everybody loves her and she's so talented that it's like you've got to enjoy her in the match.
And her promos don't have to be great.
No.
The fans have already bought in.
No, they've bought in completely. I think we're going to see Asuka go after she's going to move over to SmackDown because you had too many women, and you're going to get more after Mania at Raw, and you're going to consistently see this happen. You're going to definitely see a move and shift over because you just need it. Flair, I love Naomi, but I think really there's not a whole lot of...
It's too crowded.
You don't have much over there. Yeah, right now it's way too crowded in Raw.
Think about all the women that were not in the Elimination Chamber. Naomi, and I know there's different brands and stuff like that, but I feel like both sides are just full.
Yeah.
They're full.
All the more reason to give them something else to fight over. Give them that tag team belt to go after. Speaking of tag team belts, man, that was an awesome segue. Not even planned, guys.
We're professionals.
So first episode in, we've already got good transitions. Tag team titles. In my opinion, we talked about this a little before we started. This is the worst match of the night for me.
Yeah, this was when I flipped over to see what was going on Walking Dead.
Yeah, it was a little. It was lacking. It was not a good match, and I'm slowly losing interest in the bar.
Yeah, I like their entrance.
Yeah.
It's stylish, but it's okay. We get it. You're the bar. We get it. I also thought of like, you know what? It's time to turn Apollo heel. He is not going over as a babyface.
He's not that. He's athletic, but he's not that good of a wrestler. Like he's a good spot man.
Yeah.
He's turning into a poor man's Kofi Kingston.
Yeah, I agree with that. Because the whole match was him. Mm-hmm. I don't think there was a moment.
Titus got the hot tag. That was it.
That was it.
Yeah.
He carried the whole match for that team.
Yeah.
And so it's like, and then I saw this coming. And I had again, knowing that Sheamus is hurt and dealing with injuries, I thought for a split second that maybe they'll just ride the wave and pop on the tag titles to Titus Incorporated. But as the match went on, I was like, no, this ain't happening.
Yeah.
Titus ain't getting involved. Apollo's carrying the match. It's not happening.
Yeah, I want to see Bar versus Revival. Let Revival take it over at Mania, and then let's see what are they called down in NXT? Your big men.
The Authors of Pain.
Authors of Pain. Let them come up, and let's see Authors of Pain introduce themselves into it. They've done their business down there.
They'll be up after WrestleMania.
They'll definitely be a Mania entrance, or Mania Monday. And let's see a shot in the arm to the tag team, because right now you're getting stale. When your tag team belts are being challenged by guys that had no build up. I mean, the tag team the division has too many good teams to just kind of relegate it to hey, on the internet.
Because right now,
Titus Worldwide is going to get a match.
Yeah, and right now Titus O'Neil is a part-time wrestler.
Yeah.
He's part-time.
Yep.
He's more of a promo guy, a manager.
He's a humanitarian. He's off doing his charity work.
He had almost over 1,000 students.
Yeah,
needy youth go see Black Panther, which I was like, that is fantastic. And WWE even promoted it, which I thought was great of them.
Yeah, and he's one of those guys. He never really, other than when he was with Darren Young, he was never going over huge. He had his moments here and there where it was like, oh, he might have a shot at the Intercontinental, but he's a big boy who is extremely strong, but he's using his platform for another reason, and good for him. But he was stale, as you can see, with a part-timer who's basically more of a promo man. Cruz looked good, I thought, and I think they need to let him do something. But yeah, my favorite part of the match wasn't even a wrestling moment. When Sheamus climbed up and he slipped, and there was a moment where he's gonna ignore it, and then he's like, no, I'm going to buy into it. And all the crowd was like, oh my God, he almost just slipped and hurt himself. And he's started wagging his finger like, I'm not, you guys don't get to see that. But it was funny because he kind of broke character a little bit of it was an oh shit moment. He almost fell off the top rope.
And Sheamus has come a long way.
Yeah.
He has come a long way. I remember when he first came in, I was like, I don't like this guy.
He was forced.
He was like Triple H's guy.
Yeah.
That was his workout buddy. That was his go-to guy. But he's come a long way. Yeah, I saw that. I thought that was great.
That was funny. But yeah, you got. I don't even really remember how the match ended. I just remember it was kind of a weak. Okay, they looked like. Yeah, I think Titus went out of the ring, and then you had. I don't even know if they have a name for it, but it was like a side slam tag team move, and there you go, we're done. So match was over before it started. It seemed it wasn't very exciting, but the belts are staying on the bar.
This is your moment to go get nachos or a food or bathroom break because it was just it started off very flat and it kind of just
when you got Gallows and Anderson and the Revival in your division and you go with Cruz and O'Neil.
Yeah, I would have rather seen Gallows and Anderson.
Yeah, it would have been much better.
Especially if you're trying to push the Baylor Club.
Yeah, you know? I still want that to kind of jumpstart. We need more we need more stables. We need more factions. I miss the days of the Nation of Domination versus DX. That was fun because then you had so many interactions that you could do with them. Bring some of that back, please.
So many matches you could spread out over a period of time. You just didn't have to do everything within 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I mean, you put two five-man stables against each other, you've got almost a year's worth of pay-per-views. You know, especially if you incorporate some belts somewhere. Intercontinental, Tag Team, or World Championship. They don't do it like that. And they still work. Look at the success of the Bullet Club.
Yeah.
They work. They just don't use them. I don't know why.
Is that a Vince thing?
I don't know, because Vince loved them in the Attitude Era. Because, you had the Ministry and, the Right to Censor.
Job Squad.
They were all over the place.
Yeah.
They were all over the place. And now you're lucky to find a couple. The Shield was the closest thing, and now we've got kind of a little bit of the Shield still together, but not. You don't really get that anymore. So I don't know. So then we move into the second female match of the night. Asuka versus Nia Jax, with the stipulation that if Nia Jax wins, then she will be added to the women's title match at WrestleMania. I was confused from the start with this stipulation because Asuka still hasn't actually said that she's challenging in Bliss, or the Raw Women's Champion. And it's not even just coincidental. The commentators are stating that she still hasn't made a selection. So the company's embracing the fact that it's still open for a challenge. What are your thoughts on this? Because, I mean, they backed themselves into a corner here as far as, putting these two together when Asuka had not challenged anybody yet.
You either thought one of two things. Either one, they're going to give Nia Jax a real push and just tag her in with Asuka in the main event at WrestleMania, or Asuka's going to win. They haven't made up their mind who she's going to face. I'd like to see somebody like Nia Jax get a push. She's a bigger girl. I think she moves pretty good for a bigger girl. But we were having this conversation earlier. It's the size of some of these females in the women's division. they're not going to knock her over. Mm-mm. Especially, like you said earlier, she's the Braun Strowman of the women's division.
She is.
People like Asuka or Bayley, they're going to have a hard time getting one over on her, just on her size and strength.
Yeah, I don't understand what they are going to do with Nia Jax. Nia Jax has been with them for over a year now, right?
Seems like longer.
She did Mania last year.
Yeah, she was.
They teamed up against her.
Yeah.
So she's got to be at least over a year because the build up to there. So she's been with them a year. She continuously is booked as this, unbeatable force, and she's never had a championship. She's only come close a couple times against Banks, but she's never won. Like
they build her up, and then there's no payoff.
Yeah, she's the Bray Wyatt.
Yeah.
Like there's just no real way for her to go over.
They were building her up during the Royal Rumble, and like, how are they going to eliminate somebody her size? And then
they figured out how to do that. Well, and that's the thing is, there's no legitimacy to larger athletes in the Royal Rumble because if the Big Show never won a Royal Rumble, and
who's the biggest person that won a Royal Rumble?
Yokozuna.
Yeah.
He won one.
Kane never won one. He may have the record for eliminations, but he's never won one.
And that record will be gone in a couple of years. They'll give it to Roman. He's too close for. unless the guy gets hurt, he's going to eliminate a couple people.
So Yokozuna would probably be in the biggest. Maybe Hogan. Didn't Big John Studd win one?
He did, but Yokozuna is a huge.
In the modern era, it was Yokozuna.
Yeah. So Yoko won. I can't remember which.
1993.
He was early on. He was probably one of the first.
Because I remember that in sequence. It was 93 was Yokozuna, and then 94 you had that double draw with Lex Luger and Bret Hart.
Yeah.
And then 95 Shawn Michaels won from like the 1 or 2 spot.
The one spot, yeah.
So Yokozuna was 93.
So I'll never actually believe that a large athlete, somebody like Nia Jax, somebody like Braun Strowman, is going to win because every single Rumble and every single time you have a match like this, like Elimination Chamber or anything like that, everybody teams up on them, and that's how they go out. That's how they almost eliminated Strowman, which when we get to that point, we'll talk about the sequence. It was pretty awesome. But people team up against him. That's the script. They do that every time. So that's why Nia Jax should beat Asuka. She should have beaten Asuka. She should have just rolled her over. Even though Asuka is a phenomenal athlete and a wonderful performer, she's just not able to take her down. And the fact that she won in the way that she did, that shows how she should have won. And so that was good booking there. She wasn't going to beat her with a finishing move. I thought she might have gotten her to tap with the armbar because that makes sense. But how many times are we going to see a large athlete like Nia Jax or Braun Strowman not go over? Like, give them a legitimacy. There's a reason why Big Show for about a couple of years was the most dominant athlete is because he went through no one could beat somebody that big.
Nia Jax would have been women's champion in the 90s.
Oh, yeah. She would have been women's champion for years.
Yeah, she would have been women's champion in the 90s. That's a Vince McMahon thing, big, even for the women. She would have been champion in the 90s. Right now, like you said, they don't give legitimacy to it. It's just like, okay, you build her up to be this big threat. She could end the streak of Asuka, and then you have the same old ending.
Yeah. And I think here's how it's going to play out as far as, here's my fantasy booking. You've got Asuka, who's going to challenge Flair. Flair's going to go on to beat Ruby Riott. Ruby Riott's a great performer, but Flair's Flair. So Flair's going to go into Mania with the belt, and I think Asuka's going to challenge her. That'll move her over, because you've got too many women. So you're going to have Asuka over at SmackDown, and you'll have Nia, who ended the match with some very strong booking. She plows Asuka through the barricade, and I love that spot every time they do it, but anytime that happens, I'm like, you need to, it's always that spot, and it's always like, I don't know, it's kind of
that
formulaic.
Corner has been, Roman Reigns has gone through it, Brock Lesnar has gone through it. Goldberg, I mean, I thought, I was like, after seeing that, what happened after the match, after Asuka won and Nia Jax threw her through the barricade, I was like, okay, put her in WrestleMania.
I think she's
make a triple threat.
I think that Asuka's going to go over there, and I think Nia Jax is going to get it against Bliss. Because right now, Banks is going to go against Bayley. Yeah. I mean, you don't incorporate that and then not have a payoff at the biggest, that friendship's been going on forever. That's where it belongs. Like, that payoff belongs there.
Can I ask you a question?
So I think Jax is going to end up going against Bliss. And I think she's going to destroy Bliss. But
not to get off on Sasha Banks and Bayley, is this going to be the Shawn Michaels, Marty Jannetty breakup here?
I don't know
if one of them going to go to unbelievable heights and the other one just kind of...
I never thought Bayley was going to go that big. Bayley's character belongs in NXT. Like, in a smaller setting where she can show off. I love Bayley, and I was so happy that she finally made the payoff, like the jump, but I don't think Bayley ever really... And honestly, too, I never thought Bayley and Sasha were as close as Jannetty and Michaels. Jannetty and Michaels went years where it was like, they are legitimate brothers. You never saw one without the other. Banks and Bayley were part of the 4 horsewomen. Like, those 4 were closer, and then the other... Then, Flair went off and did her thing, and then Becky Lynch has just kind of been forgotten almost completely, unfortunately. But you have this idea that they're the bestest of friends. Well, yeah, because they're the only 2 people on the brand. Like, I don't know. I don't think it even belongs in the conversation as those 2, because I don't think if they were ever actually as close as Michaels Jannetty.
But whoever they decide to win this match, I feel has more support of the company going forward.
Yeah. Which unfortunately that might be Bayley, because they're afraid of Banks getting hurt. She's gotten hurt or almost gotten hurt so many times. I think Banks is the better performer.
There's been a couple of matches in the past year. It looks like she almost broke her damn neck.
Yeah.
I mean,
she. I don't think Banks has a longevity as Bayley does, because Bayley's not. She isn't boring. She just doesn't have the flash. She's a safe performer. So. But I think Nia Jax is going to go over at Mania with a match against Bliss, and that makes sense because those 2 have been partners, those have been allies, they've been enemies. Like, there's some storyline built in there, and the biggest female performer against the smallest, there's story there. So I think that's where they'll go.
One highlight of the match: Asuka put Nia Jax into a guillotine, and then she turned that into a vertical suplex. I thought that was a really good transition. Cool.
That and then the missed bonsai drop, that actually looked like it hurt. I was like,
there was
ouch.
Like some repercussion to that. Like, it looked like she gave it all with that drop. And
so she sold that well.
Yeah,
I don't know. Nia Jax needs to learn how to sell, though. She's got the Batista selling, as far as I'm concerned. It's like somebody that big getting hit by somebody much smaller than them, and it just doesn't. She doesn't sell it big enough. Strowman's struggling, but he's getting better at it. He's getting the dizziness where it's like enough of these big attacks and he's going to start to feel it. He's doing better than she is, but she's going to have to learn how to do that, because she's got the ability in that division to do some really cool things as far as the size difference, but it seems like she's kind of fallen into the same 3 or 4 big moves.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I want her to succeed, but I don't think it is going to be over Asuka. They actually have a match coming up in another couple of weeks, which is like, again, you're either going to kill Jax's momentum or kill the streak, and why would you kill the streak on Raw?
Yeah.
Do it at Mania, do it at, Survivor, do it somewhere big. Don't do it in Raw.
It wouldn't be that stupid to do that.
No.
Yeah.
So Asuka wins with a roll-up and a decent match, but I don't know if it was anything. A lot of people all over social media are buzzing about how both women were so great. It was a good match. I don't know how good it was, though, in my opinion.
It was a good filler.
Yeah.
It was a good spot for it in the card. Yeah.
Our next match, there's a little bit more dissension with Matt Hardy, the Woken Matt Hardy versus Bray Wyatt. I freaking love Woken Matt Hardy. I love the character. I just want them to do something with it.
I just don't know if I'm on board with it. Like, he had all this momentum coming out of TNA.
Yeah.
And then
the legal
he
battle.
Couldn't do it in WWE when the Hardys first came back, because they were having a legal battle over it.
Yeah.
And then finally when Matt Hardy wins the legal battle and then the copyrights to the broken/woken character, I almost feel like it was a little too late.
Well, and I like the way they did it with him losing, and that made sense.
Yeah.
They would have done so much better with the momentum if they would have done it right as like their debut was that. Also, at the same time, though, hearing the Hardy Boys music was one of the
that was the pop of the year.
Oh my god! Like, I was sitting and I knew the rumors, I'd heard the rumors, but they were at a Ring of Honor event the night before, and I was like, okay, yeah, they're not gonna. There's no way. Like, maybe they'll show up tomorrow on Raw or something, but I was here with a buddy of mine and I lost it. Like, I think I blacked out. I was so excited. It was the coolest thing.
With Matt Hardy, though, I'll give him where credit's due. He goes full in on character.
Oh, that's why I love it so much.
And I don't think people give him enough props for creativity, promos. When he goes in, he goes in.
That TNA final deletion, there's no business. That had no business being entertaining. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of, but it was so good.
When he was still with TNA, he did a interview on Jericho's podcast as the broken character. Yeah. He never broke character in the entire podcast. It was amazing. And then Jericho was entertaining it. He was asking questions to Broken Hardy. And
I think that's why I love the character so much. Is it has no business being entertaining. It has no business being there. There's it's just so stupid, but he commits to it so much that you're like, all right, let's see what he's gonna do. That's why I'm like, all right, but they're gonna need to do something. The promo that they cut last night with Bray Wyatt is that this is not over. This match was just another battle. Something needs to happen because there's no rhyme or reason to it. They gave away a really boring first encounter on the 25th Raw, 25th anniversary. Now this, and it really wasn't that great of a match. I mean, when the best part of the match is you got Matt Hardy singing his Fade Away and Become Obsolete
the weird
song.
Start to the match.
Yeah, which was cool. Yeah. I wanted more of that because that's the character that they both have, but they never do anything with it.
There was one point where Bray Wyatt did this little spider thing, and I guess it goes to just the psychology of the match and what Hardy's character is doing. He starts clapping and smiling, saying, "Great job, great job!"
Oh yes,
and then the crowd, he's pouring on the crowd to yes, clap for him. He's doing a great job. And Bray Wyatt's like totally out of it.
So good.
He's being taken out of his character in a good way. He's I've never had to deal with this before.
Yeah.
You're usually when I do the little spider thing, people are freaked out, and you're clapping.
And he's entertained by it.
Yeah.
And that's the cool thing is Matt Hardy's character is almost like a twisted version of hey, wrestling's fake and we're all we're entertaining you, and he's this mentally overtaken,
ringmaster.
Yeah, this is I don't know.
It's a show.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
But the match, it was just kind of blah.
Well, and what summed it up for me, and I hate this. I'm one of the people that would get booed out of an arena if I was in an arena with this. The beach ball made its way into this match. Did you catch that?
I did not see that part.
Well, they even were chanted "Let's go beach ball," and you can tell when they just randomly cheer or boo. When
the crowd was out of it.
The crowd didn't care, and I'm like, for one thing, it's because there was no real proper build up to this. They're not doing anything. They needed something. Brother Nero showing up would have been perfect, but there was no build up to it, and so the match fell very flat.
You think they'll say that for WrestleMania? Even if you could, not necessarily for Jeff Hardy to wrestle, but just to be there and be
I think they need it before. Because if this is going to continue right now, Hardy and Bray Wyatt are on a collision course for the Andre Memorial Battle Royal. They don't have the spot or a pre-show match. They don't have enough interest. If they want it to be
like that,
it shouldn't. If they incorporate Brother Nero early. Maybe you even find Brother Nero coming in if he's not ready to come back yet, which he was there for the 25th anniversary, just as himself. But if they bring him back just as hype man and have Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt together and start building up a faction, we really want this stable. Maybe then you get something, and then there's more reason to buy into it. I really worry that I love Bray. Bray was one of the reasons why I got back into it when you had the Wyatt family and S.H.I.E.L.D. I stepped away for a couple of years as I got busy with the new job and kind of starting my career, but when I kept hearing people talk about and seeing things about, hey, you got to check out the Wyatt family, and you got to check out the S.H.I.E.L.D. These guys are doing something. I was like, this is awesome. The
factions.
Wyatts, oh my God, it's bringing these factions in. It was great. But it's one of the biggest problems. Every single person who analyzes wrestling is going to give you the same thing. They build up Bray Wyatt as being this monster. He loses a big match, and he starts it over.
Yeah.
He's never actually... He's had the one payoff with the Elimination Chamber a year ago where he won the belt, and that's it. He's never had a payoff.
This right here, this match, should be the perfect combination of what you were talking about earlier, where you had your nostalgia, your older wrestler, Matt Hardy, and your new blood.
Yeah.
Working a match. This should be a hell of a match, but right now it doesn't feel like it's got the feet to get to WrestleMania. Something
needs to happen. Something big needs to happen. If it's a twist where they join or it's maybe they do a final deletion part 2, and they say, you know what, go and do it. They tried to do it with the New Day and the Wyatt family, which I thought was funny. They tried to do it. It wasn't bad, but it was nowhere near. Maybe they do that, but they need something because it's a stale feud right now, and we're getting into the hype of the biggest season of the year. It's got to be bigger than that. So Matt Hardy wins with a twist of fate that kind of came out of nowhere, but hey, he wins. And so you've got one win by Bray on the 25th anniversary of Raw, one win by Matt Hardy, Elimination Chamber, and who the hell knows where they're going next. So now we move on to not necessarily a match, but a big hyped promo. Ronda Rousey signing her Raw contract, which I didn't know where this was going. It ended well, I think.
The beginning was shaky.
Holy cow. Somebody get her a manager because she can't talk.
That was literally the first thing I wrote down.
Yeah.
Plus her mic skills. And again, I'm gonna cut her a break because this is her first time talking in front of a crowd like that. Mm-hmm. She didn't have to really do a lot of talking like that in Ultimate Fighting.
No, show up at the weigh-in and look fierce.
Yeah, and
look angry.
Give a mean face and say a couple of words. So I'm gonna give her a break. I really feel like Triple H is going to take her under his wing and help her. I'm sure after Sunday's pay-per-view when they went backstage, he gave her some advice.
Give some feedback.
After last night's promo on Raw, I'm sure he's just giving her advice, build her up.
Yeah.
The athletic skills are there. She's going to do fine in the ring.
Yeah.
But the mic work, jeez. She seemed nervous. I feel like
she was terrified.
She maybe forgot a couple or flubbed some lines.
On her first, and I saw this as a meme or a little thing. It was, we've been waiting for you for years. Here you go. Here's your mic. Hey guys. Like her first words on a mic in WWE.
Hey guys.
Hey guys. Like nervous as hell. Not in her element. She needs a Paul Heyman, and I'm a little salty right now with Paul Heyman from not showing up with the Lesnar thing last night. I don't know if he had anything to do with it or what his. I mean,
there were times you couldn't hear her.
Yeah, you couldn't hear her. You didn't know she didn't. She was remembering a script. She was memorizing lines like that. I'm a theater guy. I saw someone who was memorizing lines in that promo.
Yeah,
which she's going to have to learn. And
because some of the
she's
best
not going through NXT.
Some of the guys, and I'm not expecting her to be the best promo person, not at all. But there's a lot to learn if you go back and watch people like Roddy Piper or The Rock or Stone Cold Steve Austin or Shawn. You have a general idea of what you want to say, but sometimes you're going to have to ad-lib a little bit.
And that's my biggest question with this, with her signing with WWE. She's jumping into a very high-profile match because all signs are pointing to a match involving Stephanie and Triple H and some sort of a mixed tag. Like that's what we feel. Like we might not get that, but I'm pretty strong.
They laid the framework last WrestleMania.
Yeah. That's somewhere. And I honestly take some time out of your night, out of your busy schedule. Rock. It needs to be The Rock because he was in the mat. He was in the ring. That's where it belongs. It feels like it's going to be Kurt Angle. He looked good in the match when he had to step in for was it Roman Reigns?
Yeah, he's just
he's getting up there, but
he's so gingerly. Like he's just his neck is a stack of dimes.
Yeah, and I think that if you throw him in there, you can let him and Triple H go at it for a little bit, but let Stephanie and Rousey, let them have their moment. Stephanie is in great shape still. She hasn't performed in a long time.
Doesn't mean she can't.
But yeah, and so you see Shane McMahon stepped in after a long time and he delivered. I think that it's going to be those two. I think that this whole business is. I'm wanting to know what are the women in the Raw roster locker room? What are they thinking? Because she needs their help more than anything. And if she's come into this business with a target on her back, not just in the script, but if they're ticked off that this person who didn't put their time in, yes, she put her time in. She's not being given anything because she put in years and years and years of work to become good in UFC, and just her judo background. Are they going to take her under the wing and say, "Here's how to do it"? Because if they do, she could be a star.
Yeah.
If they don't, she's going to be no different than Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
Because people were booing her pretty hardcore early because they were like, "Okay, you don't know how to do this yet."
Yeah.
Some people are cheering because they're like, "Oh, she's just adorable. She's Ronda Rousey. Yeah,
she's
awesome."
here."
Yeah, but a lot of those smart fans were not immediately impressed.
No. And I had seen pictures and stuff, and this was probably a month before Royal Rumble. She's been down at the Performance Center working. Yeah. I think she's being trained by Neidhart's daughter. Natalia. She's being trained by her. That makes sense. She's been down there working. This is way before she even signed a contract. I like that she's taking this seriously.
Yeah, and she even said when she signed,
I'm in.
This is not part-time.
Yeah.
I'm not, and I mean, that was almost a dig at Lesnar, and like, I'm coming here, and this
is what I'm doing for the next 3 to 5 years.
Yes. I have no short-term plans.
I appreciate that. She's being honest. It'll come. The mic skills will come. I think she's got a lot of work to put in between now and WrestleMania, but I think she'll put on a good show.
Yeah, I think it'll be good. It better be good, because if it's not, she's got a long an uphill battle.
I really didn't think they were going to throw her. I mean, they gave the kind of a smoke screen to it after the Royal Rumble when Asuka won and she came in.
Yeah.
Okay, all the girls were standing in the ring and stuff. They wouldn't throw her in with Asuka, Charlotte Flair, first match, WrestleMania. That's a recipe for disaster.
And there's more money in her facing a McMahon. You know, get one of them involved, because anytime a McMahon is involved, it's always fun. There's a little bit of that, because you don't see that. There's a little bit of sideshow there.
And Triple H knows how to run a match.
Yes,
he knows how to run a match,
and it'd be good for him to, because I mean, he's been in some pretty high profile matches in the past couple of years, and I always love seeing him back. He's a good match general. He never puts on a bad match anymore. I don't think I've ever seen him in something where I was disappointed. Other than when Reigns beat him, I was disappointed in the ending there. But yeah, he's good at what he does, and people enjoy seeing him. Even I'm not thrilled with the Authority kind of being a thing again.
Yeah.
But at least it's not as big as it was when it was a couple of years ago.
And if you're going to put Kurt Angle in a match, I'm pretty sure Kurt Angle would tell you that there's no person he would rather have in there taking the bumps with than Triple H, because Triple H is going to take care of him.
Yeah, he's not going to put anybody in harm's way. You throw him in there with Lesnar, Lesnar's going to beat the hell out of him, and if he gets hurt, he gets hurt.
Break his neck again.
So yeah, I mean, it was a very shaky beginning, but when she put Triple H through the table, I was impressed because it looked real. You could tell he kind of lifted his arm a little bit, but she had a lot of the work.
Yeah, she did most of the grunt work on that.
And then the slap, and just that's the Rousey that we need to see. Just the anger. Don't let her talk. Just not until she's comfortable. Let her little bits here and there. Let her be like with Reigns. Reigns was never a good talker.
No,
he was perfect with the Shield when he was just the
enforcer.
The enforcer, yeah, absolutely.
She did do better last night on Raw.
Yeah, it was better.
But that's going back to the I'm pissed off and I'm going to beat your ass. And she literally told Stephanie McMahon, if you don't apologize, I'm going to pull your damn arm out of the socket.
Yeah.
That's what you need, not these short hey guys, great to be here. Now you need her short Arnold Schwarzenegger type one-liners, and then just be like, go, because we know right now your mic skills aren't where it's at.
And I was just impressed that they actually are already bringing in the fact that she had a shaky end of the UFC career. She may not have it anymore. They need to play that up, because Lesnar came after winning and he had his run. He didn't lose a few matches and get destroyed.
He got sick for a while.
He went out. He basically his transition back was because it's I need to take a break, not because I got my ass kicked 4 times in a row.
Yeah.
Ronda Rousey lost it. I mean, she lost one match in 10 seconds.
That last match she had, I watched that, and she
it's like a baseball player getting the yips.
Yeah, she got her ass beat, and I think that was bad. And you could tell she was disappointed after the match.
Yeah.
That's not the way she wanted to go out.
Well, and then Dana was like, she might be done. After seeing that, he's not. It's no show for him. That's a sport. And he's like, she didn't have it. She needs to step away. And she did. So this is hopefully a rejuvenation to her career.
And she wants to be there. You could legitimately see the excitement of wanting to be there.
She'll be good. It's going to take some time, but she'll be good.
Yeah. Kurt Angle. It's weird during that segment too.
It was weird last night.
I even wrote down, was he high? His line
know.
Delivery was kind of off, and I don't know if they meant for it to be like that, or I don't know.
It was. I wonder if there's something going on, because last night was weird too. It was he came in, and the ending of last night's Raw was the weakest one I've seen in a long time, where he just gets. Angle gets sucker punched by Triple H, and then they leave.
That was a weak ending.
It's very just like, wait, that's the end? You had a pretty good episode with a lot of good promos and a handful of good matches with Balor and Miz and Rollins and Miz.
Yeah, it was kind of like he gets socked one punch from Triple H, and
even the commentators were like, what was that about? That makes no sense. Like, okay, yeah, well, clearly you guys are building something, but if it's that confusing and that's what you leave it on, we know what the opener next week's going to be. Is you're going to have Triple H or Angle come out, and that's what you're going to, because you have no real discussion. It's like, oh, well, they need someone to join the mixed tag match. That's it. So, all right, let's move on to the last match of the night, the men's elimination chamber. After about 20 minutes of introductions, because there are 7 guys in this, and once they get into the ring, then they do their little thing, especially when some of the guys are in the pods. It took forever. But a really good, and I think this was kind of like a tester. You had Rollins, Finn, Balor, and The Miz who started out the match because you had you had a 7th man. So and I liked that. I thought that was good. Those 3, if they put those 3 in a triple threat at Mania, that's going to be a hell of a match.
Oh yeah,
3 of the best workers.
Whoever put that card together, made the absolute right decision.
Yeah.
To have them 3 start the match.
Yeah, because, well, I mean, Elias, I love Elias. I think he's a good heel that needs some more time. Like, he needs to stew a little bit, but he's got some traction with the fans. There's a group of people. He's not a bad performer either.
No, I am full bought in on Elias. Like, he's great.
I think
he gets the people around him, and then he shits on them.
He might
that's what a
be
good heel does.
He might be going up against Braun, because last night made it seem like, well, because everybody thought Braun was going in against Miz after this. But they didn't interact at all last night. Braun came out and messed with Elias, so it seems like those 2 are going to get something, which I don't know where they're going to go with it, but
yeah,
those are 2 very popular guys right now, so it'll be a good match. I don't know how it's going to be booked, but
Elias may be the heel that WWE needs right now, but again, he needs to, like you said, he needs to stew a little bit more.
Yeah.
The fans are behind him.
Yeah.
I was just reading today online that his shirt has outsold Rusev Day shirts.
Has it?
After Elimination Chamber, it took over the top sales of the company.
He's doing what you saw, guys like Miz do, where they're just like, you know what? All right, let's do this. And the fact that they started him out and when he eventually came up, just randomly walking behind promos for a month or 2, it was funny, but it was also like, okay, at some point something's gonna break.
And when I first started watching, and he started first doing the promos of him in the middle of the ring with his guitar in the spotlight, I was like, what the hell is this? And then every week, in the middle of the ring, every week, build, to now it's like one of the highlights of Raw.
It's great. Yeah, I like Elias, but Elias is not ready to start one of these matches. Cena wasn't going to. Roman wasn't. They were protecting their people with the pods. With Braun, Cena, and Roman.
Yeah, you can't start with Braun either.
So the fact that those 4 were the protected ones by not spending as much time, it shows you Rollins, Finn, and Miz are your workhorses. And they are. The belt belongs on one of those 3.
And they're smaller guys.
Yeah. They're the small guys they're your Shawn Michaels prototype, your Bret Harts. They're the ones who are legitimately going to be able to lead a match. And Rollins' gauntlet match showed you exactly that he's ready for something. I'd be surprised if he doesn't walk out of Mania with the Intercontinental belt. I think that they need to give it to him. Let Miz and Rollins and Finn all go at it for a while. Because right now, none of them are going to be legitimately considered guys to take on the Universal belt. I think that what you're going to see is after Mania, when Roman takes it, that's when Braun and him will go in it.
And you'll probably see Miz take some time off. He's got a baby on the way.
He does. And he deserves some time
off.
Yeah. He's been running for a long time.
They were really, 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 really super concerned that he had missed WrestleMania because the birth date was going to be so close to the actual WrestleMania, which you can never blame somebody for missing something. We see it all the time in sports and baseball and football.
Yeah.
But, they were really worried, but it looks like now that the birth is going to be a little bit after WrestleMania. And, he'll take some time off, refuel himself, and let Rollins or Finn Balor carry it for a while.
Yeah, and deservedly so. So I was just extremely impressed with the beginning of this match.
Yeah.
It started off with some kind of funny, hey, let's team up, and no, let's team up, no, and then they all teamed up against Miz. So, I think that was a preview of a really good match at Mania. you got Cena coming in doing his Cena thing, and once Reigns came in, I was bored.
Here's the thing, the match was kind of spoiled for me when that part happened, because you know what's going to happen. I like swerves. I like somebody that's when Finn Balor beat Seth Rollins for the first Universal title. I was like, yeah, that's a great swerve.
No one expected it.
Because it's like, you put him in the match. That's probably good enough for him for now, but to actually have him win it. But this match didn't have it. You knew what was going to happen. They've been building this Reigns-Lesnar match for a year. So like you said, when he came in, it just was like, okay, do I really need to see how this ends?
Yep.
Do I need to see how they get Braun Strowman out? Any more highlights? Because I know how this is going to end.
Yeah, and I mean, I look at my most memorable moments of the past couple of years. Kevin Owens winning the belt was a genuine moment that it's a swerve. Like you said, anytime they can do something that isn't obvious to the fans, especially this past Royal Rumble, there was no one person who you were like, yeah, they're going to win. A lot of people hoped Nakamura were going to win, but you could also see, Balor winning, or you could see Rollins winning. You could, even potentially see, some of these other guys come in with like an Owens or something like that. But when going into it how it's going to end, it's not fun. It's not enjoyable. It's like you're just looking for high spots at that point.
You're looking for high spots, and you're starting to plot out, okay, this is going to happen, and then he's going to pin him, done match.
It's going to be, you're more interested in, okay, when is my disappointment going to set in? Not what's going to be happening at the end. So, yeah, I'm excited for post-WrestleMania. The Lesnar-Reigns match better have somebody busted open, because that's the only thing that's going to be interesting.
Do you feel like there was enough high spots in this match?
Enough? Yes and no. When
because they always have to have somebody go through the plexiglass.
Yeah, that didn't surprise me. I hate
somebody
when
jump
they do
off the
that
top
now.
of the pod, and
when Braun threw Miz off the pod, that was impressive, because Braun got up there quick. Like Miz was up there, and then like 2 big steps, and Braun was up there with him. He's got some agility. When he threw him off, that was
like
cool.
that Jason Voorhees
Yes.
thing. It's like, I'm so far ahead, but he's so big, he just caught up right. I mean, he was up there so fast.
Yeah, that was cool. I think my favorite moments were the whole concept of let's beat the hell out of Strowman and him kicking out of everything.
Yeah.
Because every time I was like, okay, like the formula, everybody teams up on the big man and then they finally get him out. But he kicked out of everything, and it was really cool just to see like I wrote him down. You had a shield bomb to Strowman, which is cool to see 4 guys get him up.
Yeah.
And then you had an AA to him, and then a spear, and then I don't remember what Rollins' new name for his curb stomp is. It's not called the curb stomp anymore. It's like the blackout or something for Tyler Black, his old name. But like the curb stomp or blackout, I think. And then the coup de grace. Everybody had their finisher, and he kicked out of everything. And Elias was looking good until Braun got a hold of him.
Yeah, and I liked it when Elias came in, because when he first came in, he went around and tried to pin every single person that was laying on the mat, and it didn't work. It didn't work.
So this is where it starts to get fun and frustrating at the same time, because Braun's just picking off people.
Yeah, and it goes back to the argument you had earlier. You can't have your big guy just plowing through people, and then we're sitting there knowing, well, Reigns is going to win.
Yeah.
So this is all build up for nothing. He eliminated the most people in an Elimination Chamber match.
Yeah.
And rightfully so. He's a big son of a bitch. But you know the outcome.
Yeah, so I thought he could have, if he would have beaten Elias and then he pinned Cena, which I thought Cena's exit as number 2 was 3, because we forgot Miz is the first one off, which that was fine. Miz was never going to win. Miz is a great performer, and the fact that he started the match, that's what he was there for. But he gets pinned, and then you got Elias and Cena. I would have been okay with Balor, Rollins, and Reigns teaming up and taking out Braun. That would have made more sense to me. But a one-on-one between Braun and Roman, no. There's just no... I don't believe it, and that's the reason why people hate the fact that Roman Reigns is being pushed down their throats. It's not that Roman couldn't beat people. It's that Roman wins in the most unlikely events every time. And he throws a few Superman punches, and then he's going to win.
He's starting to do the whole Super Cena thing, where it's like, there's the odds are so insurmountable. Then all of a sudden, Super Cena, and he comes up and spears Braun a few times and throws a few Superman punches, and that's what kills the giant. I just,
The thing that they always talk about, too, is if you're looking at the old school mentality of heel and face, it's about the chase. You cheer the face because you finally want them to win. But Reigns wins a lot.
And people don't want him to win.
Like, if he would have turned heel and done everything that he was doing now, I would have liked him more. Because he's cocky, and he's got this bad guy attitude. But they want him to be this next Cena. And there's no way that he's going to be the guy that has the smiling faces with the kids. The kids like him because he does, the lock and load Superman punch. And he does a spear, and he doesn't even do it very well. But he needs to get his moveset up. He's turning into Cena. Cena reinvented himself with some new moves during the United States Open Invitational. Some of the matches that he had with Kevin Owens are some of my favorite matches of the past few years. He just needs something else. I think there were enough high spots because there's the coup de grace to the back of Braun's neck, which was like, the guy's neck is as thick as a log. You're not going to hurt him. And then the Rollins the frog splash off the
which
top
was
pod.
Pretty much halfway across the ring.
And it was flawless. Like, he hit him right. Oh, that was great. So, yeah, I think there were enough high spots.
Braun, was it Finn Balor he picked up and started swinging him around like a bat?
Oh, yeah, and he started hitting people with him.
Corey Graves, and I like Corey Graves, had the quote of the night when Braun Strowman used Finn Balor as a weapon. He said, "Weapon of choice, humans."
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm like, every week I think Corey Graves gets better and better commentary. It almost reminds me of like when I was a kid and I would watch Bobby Heenan.
Yeah.
Like, he's very funny.
Graves does a really good job. I think that I like to see Graves, and I'm glad Coach is back. I think Graves and Coach, Byron wasn't bad. They picked on him something awful. Yeah. But what he does, what Coach brings is almost a little bit of legitimacy to it. Because
he was in ESPN for several years.
So he brings a little bit. He's almost like the JR, but not as intelligent, knowledgeable about wrestling.
Yeah.
But he still knows it pretty well. And Michael Cole's the neutral guy who's just there as a hype man. I still wish they'd have some sort of JR play-by-play because I know half of the moves because of like the old school names: drop toe hold, frogs, 5-star frog splash, Texas Cloverleaf. Like, I know these names, which are the real names, because of JR.
Yeah, they would give you a wrestling class on the move sets and stuff during that time period, and now it's more of like a sports center. Yeah, you're just calling the big plays and
then it's all filler about background.
Yeah,
like they don't call the matches as well as they used to. So, I like Graves. The match it ends with this invincible Roman beating Braun with tons of spears and tons of punches. And you're like, all right, well, so much for all that. And I was very disappointed with the ending until Braun went with his post-match attack, and I was like, okay, good. Keep him legitimate. Keep him angry. If you're going to have him lose one-on-one to Reigns, make it a fluke that he's pissed off about, and then he's going to break stuff. Because he's a guy that's strong enough to tip over an ambulance, an entire set, all these things that, you
they
can't
built into
kill
his
him.
character.
Yes, so you better keep him that way, and they did. So that was an okay ending. I wasn't as disappointed, but I don't know what they're going to do next with Braun for all that, and then to have him go with
that. Not only what you just said, but I feel like it could leave the door open for him being involved in a match at WrestleMania.
It could and it should, but I think that we need to get this match in and done, or we're never going to see the end of a Lesnar Reigns. Like, Lesnar, I want him to leave. I love seeing him in matches, but he's not fun anymore. Mm-mm. He doesn't destroy people like he used to. The whole Goldberg thing for me ruined Lesnar, because Lesnar was a guy that would...
Lesnar should have kicked his ass.
He should have. And he got beat up quick and often. He lost 2 times, very quickly, both times. Got knocked out of the Rumble very quickly that year that they went at it. So he lost all credibility as that guy for me. And now he doesn't beat everybody up. Like, he gets shaken up pretty quickly. Like, that's part of the shtick, but I just don't like the character anymore.
But I feel like you can make a more legitimate argument for Braun Strowman just destroying Lesnar than Roman Reigns. Mm-hmm. Like, here's somebody that's bigger than Lesnar, stronger than Lesnar. Yeah, has no fear of Lesnar.
What they're going to have to do in this month, like we said, they're going to need Roman Reigns to be somebody who is playing up the fact that he is there as a respect to the business. He needs to be that guy who is like, you know what? I work in day out, and I love the fact that he said, I don't care how big the audience is, how big the venue is, or what city. I'll be there because I respect this business. Lesnar's only going to show up in the big cities if it's a big match or if it's a contract day. You know, like, here's one of my 12 appearances. He needs to keep playing that up because that's going to remind people, like, oh yeah, we haven't seen Lesnar fight in like 4 months. Oh yeah, he shows up and Paul Heyman does everything, and then he throws a couple punches, and then he leaves, and he doesn't show up for another month. Yeah. People are going to get upset with that. And I think that if they get on Reigns' side at some point, they're going to be happy that he finally took the belt. Not that he won, but that he finally took the belt away from Lesnar.
Yeah, and this morning they were reporting on the dirt sheets that he's not contracted to show up for at least another 2 weeks.
He won't be there next. I think it's 2 weeks before he's there.
In Detroit, when Raw's in Detroit. He's not contracted to show up for at least another 2 weeks. So how they're going to drag this out, maybe they have Paul Heyman show up next week for the mouthpiece.
If they don't, let Reigns come out again.
Yeah.
Let him just berate Lesnar for being this part-timer who is holding the biggest belt of Raw.
Same thing that Punk did with The Rock.
Yeah.
And they had that, which I feel like they needed another match.
Yeah, they did.
But, Punk went the same avenue with that. It's like, you're a part-timer. You don't care about this business. Mm-mm. You're in the movie-making business now.
Yeah. And Lesnar's there for the money. If Lesnar's contract wasn't big enough, he wouldn't be there.
It's an easy schedule. Yep. When you only have to show up for 2 Raws and
you
really, pay-per-view.
You're going to be lucky to get anything more than 10 minutes out of him.
Yeah.
Like, all of his matches are short. I think the fact that I think we had like an 18-minute match once with him, I was like very surprised. So, all right. So that's the end of our discussion on the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. We do have one last segment coming to you. Let's jump right into it here. This is let's look at our next upcoming pay-per-view. So next episode will be coming at you in a few weeks after Fastlane, the final pay-per-view before WrestleMania. And currently there are 4 matches that are lined up for us. We have, and actually they're all championship matches. We have WWE Championship Fatal 5-Way with Styles going up against Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Baron Corbin, and Dolph Ziggler, which is essentially 4 heels and a face, which is kind of interesting. You have the Women's Championship between champion Charlotte Flair against Ruby Riott, the United States Championship with champion Robbie Roode facing Randy Orton, and the Tag Team Championship with the Usos as champions going against the New Day. Of those 4 matches, and actually we don't currently, like we said, we don't have a match for Nakamura. I think we might get a Cena Nakamura one, but we don't know that quite yet. Of those 4 matches, what are your thoughts? We can do a quick rundown, or you can talk about whichever one you're.
The one that stuck out to me is I think we're in the winding down phases of Randy Orton. I think he's not with the company in the next 2 years.
Yeah,
he's been there for a long time, about the same as Cena. He's been the top guy. He's been the guy that does the match when you need a match.
Yeah,
I feel like we're winding down. Like there's not much more left for Randy Orton to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you look at a guy, and granted, Bobby Roode's no spring chicken. He's up there too. He's been in the business.
But he's fresh face.
But Bobby Roode is the same type of guy that Orton is. The same build, the same attitude. The hey, look at me, I'm a god to you all. This ego guy. But he's good at what he does. I think this is going to be a really good match. I love Roode. I love Orton. Orton's character's gotten stale from time to time, but he's a good performer, and he puts on a good match.
He's great. He's great. I just, like you said, sometimes he gets a little bit stale.
Yeah. So I don't know where they go from here, though. Is you look at, you've got a lot of big names in this championship match. Styles is not dropping the belt.
No.
When you have Styles Nakamura, no. Styles is keeping the belt, and I think essentially you get Owens and Zayn who may go at it during there, because at some point it's every man for himself. So they're gonna break up, and maybe you'll get finally an Owens Zayn match at a Mania, which we should have gotten a year or so ago.
The only reason you have this match is to set up WrestleMania storylines.
Yeah,
whether that be, like you said, Owens and Zayn, which is, I would enjoy that match tremendously. They've had great matches in the past when Zayn was face.
Yeah, there was their first one. I think it was at Survivor Series, or there was a Battleground. There was their first match together on the main roster. Phenomenal.
Yeah.
One of the best matches that I had seen in a long time. Yeah, those two get together, and it's never a disappointment.
Yeah, I feel like that it's everything's set in place for like the big championship match for WrestleMania.
Yeah, we got Styles Nakamura. There's no getting away from that. I think the most interesting one is what do you do with Randy Orton if he's not champion?
Well, that's what everybody's talking about. Like everybody's talking about like what's John Cena's role in WrestleMania? What's Randy Orton's? Mm-hmm. What is he gonna do?
What are the New Day gonna do? Because
what are the New Day gonna do?
I mean, I love the New Day as the announcers, and they did a good job with it last year, especially with that swerve with the Hardys. But they deserve a match. They haven't had a match in 2 years.
Yeah.
So they deserve a match. They're not going to be in it unless you maybe get the Usos, the New Day, and the Bludgeon Brothers. But they've been putting these guys up for so long.
Battle
that
Royal.
At some point,
you'll probably see them show up in the Battle Royal.
Yeah.
I mean, and I feel like that would be a heavy demotion for Randy Orton if it's like, well, we got the Andre the Giant Battle Royal.
Well, maybe you see a because we haven't had a ladder match in a couple years. Maybe you see a United States Championship between, because what are Corbin and Ziggler going to do? What's Jinder going to do? And you got some decent guys still out there that are bigger names that
can put on a good match.
They could. So I think maybe then you get or maybe like a stipulation match where it's like the gauntlet match or something like that where Rude goes in as champion and then you walk out with like, hey, Ziggler finally goes over or something where you don't expect it. They can do that with the United States belt. I
don't think they ever should have got rid of Money in the Bank at WrestleMania.
Oh, I agree.
That way you're able to get more people on the card.
Mm-hmm. And a hell of a match, too.
It's a hell of a match. They always are. I don't think I've ever seen a bad Money in the Bank match. And it's something that people look forward to. And then you would have a place for like a Jinder Mahal, a Randy Orton, a Dolph Ziggler to put them in a match and not have to worry about it. You can make it a Money in the Bank match. They never should have branched that off into their own pay-per-view.
Yeah, I love the pay-per-view because it's something to look forward to. It's another one of those like Royal Rumbles where you're like, all right, cool, you don't know what's going to happen. But it is a disappointment that you don't know where to put some of these guys. They get thrown into Andre the Giant, which I was excited about the first year because I was like, oh, cool, like a little Royal Rumble. But it doesn't make as much sense. It becomes like when you get guys like Mojo Rawley who
put somebody over that you may not know of.
Yeah, and a guy that may or may not actually get any legitimacy. The only person that it really has helped was, in my opinion, was Cesaro, and that was short-lived because Cesaro...
Didn't Corbin win?
Corbin won, but Corbin lost the Money in the Bank. Like
he's losing it
speaking
as fast
of Money
as he's
in the
losing
Bank,
his hair.
We still have... Carmella's still got that briefcase, and she's holding on to it, and she should because she has nothing else right now.
Yeah.
But at some point, she's going to have to cash in because we're getting closer and closer to... Isn't it like... I want to say it's like August or September.
The Money in the Bank's, I believe, is in July.
So she's only a few months away, and she's got to cash it in within a year. Maybe Flair goes over, and if she doesn't go against Asuka, and maybe a cash in after that, we might see a women's cash in at Mania this year.
Yeah,
depends on the match. I don't know. We'll see.
I don't know. I always remember looking forward to Money in the Bank at WrestleMania.
Oh, I loved it. I loved it.
For a lot of wrestlers, that's their big goal. That's the thing, is to be in a match in the biggest show of the year. And, sometimes it's get harder and harder when you have things set out a year in advance. And it's like, well, we don't have room for you. Do you want to do a backstage segment? Mm-hmm. You're on TV.
Yeah. And I think maybe that's where we do get that intercontinental, what we had a couple years ago, the ladder match. We had a ladder match last year with the tag team belts. I mean, maybe we get a ladder match and you get some of those guys involved, but it's for a championship, not the Money in the Bank.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Otherwise, they're going to have some very disappointed superstars in about a month and a half. So of those four, who are your picks? Who do you got in the tag team? Usos or the New Day?
Usos.
Okay.
I mean, they've been hot, and again, I think the New Day's times have kind of gone and went. Everybody's hip to their stick.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And when they were first around, everybody was like on board with it, and they're like, "Oh, this is crazy. This is new." It's kind of gotten old.
Yeah, you could definitely see like Big E with a heel turn.
Yeah,
and because he's the big guy, so if they don't have him, then there may be some shakiness to the team. You get a heel turn. Yeah, I'm with you there. I don't think it'll happen anytime soon.
The Bootios have gotten stale.
They have. They've been left out too long. expiration date. Yeah, I'm with you though. I think the Usos are also going to take they're going to continue as champions. U.S. Championship, Bobby Roode or Randy Orton?
I don't see how you take it off Bobby Roode.
Yeah, not
unless
yet.
you're willing to give him a main push after WrestleMania, maybe something for SummerSlam. I don't see how you take it off Bobby Roode. Again, I don't think Randy Orton's going to be in the company or takes a hiatus in the next 2 years.
Yeah, unless you give it to Orton because he's on his way out soon. I think that my gut wants to say stick it with Roode, so I'll stick with Roode. I was going to almost go Orton, but let's say we got 2 for 2 on championships. Women's champion, Charlotte Flair of Ruby Riott.
Again, you need Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania. You need her at WrestleMania. She is. If she's not one, she's 1A of top women wrestlers in the WWE right now.
Mm-hmm.
She's
always delivers.
Physically fit as can be. Great mechanics. Great on stage presence. You cannot not have her in a championship match especially if she goes to Asuka.
Yeah,
that's what I want to see.
I want to see Flair Asuka. It'd be a hell of a match. So yeah. I'm still Flair. I think it's going to be I think Fastlane's going to be boring. I think it'll be good matches, but there's not going to... And which worries me, because I'm like, you're going to have at least one title change if you have 4. So maybe Roode loses? I don't know. I don't think it goes to...
I don't know if it's that close to WrestleMania. Yeah, if you already have storylines kind of unfolding.
Unless you get a rematch between Roode and Orton or something like that, and then you incorporate the ladder. I don't know. But yeah, I think Flair's also going to win, and then we've already established that we both think Styles are going to win. But I think that's going to be a good match. Anytime you get 5 guys in there together, I'm a huge Owens fan.
Yeah, so am I.
I was a little afraid a few months ago when it looked like both him and Zayn might get kicked out of the company for some hijinks on the road. But I love Kevin Owens. He is my favorite. I'd say he's my favorite wrestler. He's too good on the mic, and for a big guy, he has an always innovative, changing moveset. He never settles.
And he knows how to work a crowd.
Yeah, and it's when you get a guy who slows down a match to the point where he does a headlock and he does it just to piss off the crowd. I love that because you are working within the system and you're saying wrestling is a formula, and I know what the formula is and I'm playing with it. So I don't think Styles is going to drop. You cannot take away Styles Nakamura from us.
No, and I don't think a lot of credit is given to Styles. He's been the workhorse for SmackDown.
He's been amazing.
I mean, he's always reckon it to like when Bret Hart was champion, and he sometimes he didn't get enough credit reserved, but he got WWF then WWE now through a lot of lean years in the mid '90s when it wasn't the flashiest right before the Attitude Era. And I feel like right now, like we said at the beginning of this podcast, right now SmackDown's kind of dragging ass.
Yeah,
and he's getting them through with great matches. Great matches.
Yeah, Styles is definitely the workhorse. As soon as he came into the Royal Rumble a couple years ago, there's been no question that he's been one of the biggest names, and he delivers time in and time again. So
it's almost a shame he didn't get here sooner.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it seems like such a natural fit.
Yeah. So there you go. That is the first episode of the Top Rope Wrestling Podcast. Hope you enjoyed it. We will be back in a couple of weeks when we do talk about Fastlane. At that point, there hopefully we'll have a little bit more to talk about with WrestleMania. We may have some more news to share with you guys. But that's it for you. Ben, you want to send us off?
Yeah, it's a great first podcast, and we will see you guys in a few weeks at Fastlane.